From the Toffees to the Tractor Boys, the Eagles to the Seagulls, Gunners, Bees, Hammers and Magpies, Premier League teams have got a load of crazy nicknames. Ever wondered where they came from? Let's start with Everton. They're dubbed the Toffees, but why? Well, because when the club was formed, just down the road there were two local toffee shops. Ye Ancient Everton Toffee House and Mother Noblet's Toffee Shop were big fan favourites. Next, they say if you can't beat 'em, join 'em, and that's exactly what Ipswich Town did when it came to their nickname. The term Tractor Boys used to be chanted by their opponents as a way of putting the team down for their farming background. But during one game back in the late 90s, Ipswich were 1-0 up and they decided to flip the script. 1-0 to the Tractor Boys, they sang, and a new nickname was born. Let's head to Leicester, famous for more than just a red, well, orangey cheese and Jamie Vardy. Leicestershire is also the birthplace of fox hunting, hence the Foxes. Next up, turns out apples are not the only fruit that don't fall far from the tree. Bournemouth's nickname, the Cherries, comes from the fact the club's stadium was originally built right next to a bunch of cherry orchards. This next story actually involves two club nicknames. It started with Crystal Palace. They were having an absolute nightmare run back in the early 70s. They'd been relegated after a terrible spell and manager Malcolm Allison decided enough was enough. He wanted a new nickname, something strong, fast and destined for success. Something exactly like an eagle. But there's more to this one. Brighton were in search of a nickname too, and Palace finally gave them what they needed. In a heated match between the two back in 1976, Palace fans began chanting, "Eagles, Eagles." And some clever Brighton fans came up with the perfect reply, "Seagulls, Seagulls." Not all club nicknames have a crazy story though. Take the Gunners. That just comes from the fact a group of munitions workers in the Royal Arsenal factory in Woolwich set up the club in 1886. On the flip side, some nicknames seem simple, but there's a bit more to them. Like West Ham. The Hammers is actually nothing to do with the ham part of the name. It comes from the fact the club used to be called Thames Ironworks FC and was made up of workmen and shipbuilders. So next time the away end's chanting their crazy nickname, you'll now know exactly where it came from.
Theme for us tonight, and everyone listening and watching, have you actually had dreams when you're asleep of fighting? I had a weird thing happen. We're going to ask everyone. This is going to be the theme on the show tonight, Spence. Let me set this up. This morning, I woke up having had a dream at about 8:35 a.m. this morning that I'd suddenly been asked at very late notice, 2 hours notice, to play scrum half for England at Twickenham versus Wales. Now, I played a lot of rugby at scrum half to a fairly decent level. One, I'm a Welsh Italian. My dad is a dyed-in-the-wool. Keith, my dad, is a dyed-in-the-wool, never misses a Wales game. So I'm having this dream. I'm up in the stands at Twickenham. I've been brought into, this is a weird dream. I meet the whole team. I speak to the coach. In my head, I'm coming up 60. So I'm thinking, right, all I'm going to do is pass the ball all afternoon, not run with it, take the heavy hits. And if someone runs at me, if it's a Jonah Lomu-sized man, rest in peace, Jonah Lomu, I'm just going to have to throw my body at them. So I'm just about to kind of go down and get myself composed and think about it and get mentally right. About 40 minutes to the game, and I think, right, I'm going to have to make that call to my father now and tell him that I've been selected at late notice to play for England at scrum half at Twickenham against the lovely Wales, yeah? And just as I'm walking over thinking, how do I tell my dad I'm playing for England, not Wales? I wake up. So I ring him straight away and we have a 25-minute conversation going, I can't believe this. It was so real. So what we're going to do tonight, and I just thought about this on the way in, do you have dreams, actual dreams of fighting? We know what happened to you almost catastrophically nearly 30 years ago. Do you have dreams of fighting?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, when you're involved in the sport like we're involved in the sport, listen, when you're fighting yourself, and I know that you're probably going to ask this to the fighters, Anthony Yarde's on the show, which is great guest, but as a fighter, that's all you think about is obviously fighting. So every time you go to bed, you have a dream thinking about the fight, how it's going to go, how it can be won, how it can be lost.
Are you in the fight physically while you're doing it?
Absolutely,
and do you ever wake up at a moment when you're about to knock them out or you're about to be knocked out?
Of course.
What goes on? What's your most vivid?
It never, ever, ever finishes. So, like, going into... Let me give you an example. So, going way back when I boxed for the European title. So, going into that fight, I was coming off a Southern Area title win against Patrick Mullins, and we won Fight of the Year that year. It was an absolute war, back and forth. Come through that one, so now I'm getting elevated to another level. I get selected to box for the European title as a voluntary defence against a guy called Martin Krestev.
This wasn't a dream, by the way.
No,
this was real.
Yeah, this was real, but I can tell you what happened in the dream. So I get selected to fight against Martin Krestev. So now I'm going into this fight going, I don't know if I belong at this level. So, like, you're thinking about him all the time because you're thinking, like, so... Because it's in the mind, so like it's ingrained in the brain so much, when you go to sleep, you're having visions of the fight happening. Sometimes you're doing all right, other times you're not doing so well. But before it ends, always before it ends, whether you're winning or whether you're losing, you wake up. Wow. And that's why you never know what's going on.
And that's what happens to me
And that is the
morning.
most bizarre thing. You never get to the end.
Yeah. It's like when you fall, you wake up, don't
Absolutely.
you? So it's very interesting. So tonight, we're going to keep that theme running through. Listen, we want to hear your dreams of fighting or whatever they've been. Keep it sensible, of course. Text us, call us. We'd love to hear from you tonight. Now, two guys who've been dreaming of fighting each other for about 2.5 years because it was cancelled in October 2022.
Yep.
Oh, 2.5 years. Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. It's on. The highly anticipated fight will be on the 26th of April. We knew it was Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but it was confirmed yesterday. I think it was yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we know we've got this megalithic event. We must say as well, it was organised and secured, if you like, by Turki Al Sheikh, the most influential figure in boxing right now. Earlier this month, Al Sheikh, who's organised some of the most high-profile fights in the last 16 months, said that Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority would back this fight. Reflections from you. I know we've spoken about it a bit already. We did a preview of it before the event. Your reflections on the fight now being on.
Listen, I think it's great for boxing. It was a fight that, historically made sense because, it was a fight that when it was first announced, you thought it was a fight that was always a fantasy and never going to be a reality. The fight was announced because Conor Benn was boxing down at welterweight, and Chris Eubank Jr. has boxed as high as super middleweight, where he was probably at his best at super middleweight. And then for the last few years, he's been boxing down at middleweight. You never felt the fight was going to happen, and then we get the announcement the fight is happening. And obviously, the disappointment with the fight being cancelled and, the controversy surrounding that made this fight even bigger now.
Well, it's
going
3
into
times
this
bigger now,
absolutely.
And they're probably earning 3 times more than they were going to. I'm anticipating them earning 10 million each, 60,000 people turning up, the dads getting involved. I mean, I've just been asked to write a cover story for Ring magazine on them. It's that big a fight.
Listen,
it is enormous. Anyone that doesn't want to be there doesn't love boxing.
100%. Look, the family feud goes back way, way back, with Chris Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn, and we know the history between those two
and
iconic
figures. That'll all be regurgitated.
Of course it will.
Million pay-per-view.
Of course. Without a doubt, it'll smash 1 million pay-per-views. Without a doubt. Whether you love it, whether you hate it, whatever you think about Conor Benn getting his licence back, whether that's a good thing, bad thing, people will watch it. And Chris Eubank Jr. Chris Eubank Jr. has always played the pantomime villain. Going into this one, he's not.
He doesn't need to.
It's going to be Conor Benn.
35-year-old Eubank will be the favourite against 28-year-old Benn, who stepped up from welterweight, 10 stone 7 pounds, 260 pounds at middleweight. There's a rehydration clause of 10 extra pounds. They can't go over 170. Earlier this week, we heard from Frank Smith, the CEO of Matchroom Sport, who explained what he believes about this.
It was confirmed to us yesterday by Boxer Chief Exec Ben Shalom that a rehydration clause does exist for the fight. What is it? I mean, it restricts either fighter from weighing more than 170 pounds on fight night. Now, you've gone on record, Frank, saying it's not a rehydration clause. So someone's not telling the truth, Frank. What is it?
It's a second-day weigh-in, which is quite standard in boxing. The IBF do it for all of their title fights. So essentially, you have your pre-weigh-in on the Friday for this fight, that both fighters will weigh in at 160. And then on the Saturday, there's a set weight that they'll come in at a certain time for. But I think the term rehydration clause should really be said as a second day weigh-in. That's the term usually used for it. It's not something that's just new for this fight. You know, the original fight was made at 157 pounds. This is made at 160. This is Chris's natural weight. It's a big jump up for Conor Benn, coming up 2 weight divisions, you know, and I think Chris isn't a huge middleweight himself. So I don't think the talk of a 170 is going to be an issue anyway, being completely honest. You know, I'm not in his camp, and look, he wouldn't have agreed it if he didn't feel comfortable with it.
Spencer, so let's talk about this very quickly. It's been discussed at length for about a week now. What's your feeling about those extra £10 to 170?
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think
not a punishment for Benn.
No,
for Eubank, rather.
For Eubank, definitely not. No, I don't think he'd put on much more than £10 anyway. The IBF have them rules and them stipulations in place anyway. And I think that if a fighter puts on too much weight sometimes going into a fight, that makes him sluggish anyway. So I don't think that Eubank would come in much over 170 anyway. So I don't think that that's discipline for him, for sure. We're
going to see the two men up close and personal sometime in the next fortnight, I understand. But the whole card's been announced. Liam Smith's been signed by Matchroom. Anthony Yarde, who's joining us shortly, is going to face Lyndon Arthur in a trilogy fight. Chris Billam-Smith is against Brandon Glanton, and Vidal Riley. I like this fight. Vidal Riley against Chevon Clark is going to be a lot of fun. Liam Smith spoke to White and Jordan earlier this week. Let's hear from him.
It's so cliche and it sounds crazy coming from my mouth because he's just beat me and he stopped me, but I don't rate him as a very, very good fighter. I don't. I think he's very athletic. I think he's been blessed with good genetics and athleticism over the years. He's fit, he's tough, he's durable. Ability-wise, I don't think he's got the ability to win a world title, certainly not at middleweight.
So Liam, Benn, Eubank, who wins it?
I think it's more of a 50-50 fight now because of the last 2 years. I think Chris is getting old. I don't know if Chris's body's breaking down. You're seeing him sparring with knee pads on, elbow pads, elbow braces on. I feel the weight is starting to get to Chris because he's mentioning the weight when he was over inside. He was mentioning the weight before the fight. You know, at press conferences, he doesn't usually do that. So I do think it's a bit of a closer fight. I've said that I'd probably edge towards Chris on points.
Well, I'm with Liam Smith on that. I edge towards Chris Eubank on points as well, if he can come through maybe a torrid 5 or 6 rounds, because Ben's going to bring it. How do you see the fight?
Yep, look, listen, there's a lot of ifs, buts and maybes surrounding this fight now. Chris Eubank Jr. is getting older. He's been around a long time. Liam makes a valid point. 160 is not easy for him to make now. You know, he was up at 168, where we saw him compete at his best days, really. He's dropped down to 160, so he is tight at the weight, but it's one of those fascinating fights because Ben will come in there and he'll be very strong at 160, and it depends on how Chris, you know, maintains that weight. Look, I'm with you. I think that Chris maybe steals it on points.
You know, 60,000 people we're imagining going to be at Spurs on April the 26th. Can't wait for it. Very heavily packed British cards. Yarde and Arthur, we'll speak to Anthony Yarde about that shortly when he comes in the studio, but Liam Smith and Aaron McKenna, Chris Billam-Smith, Brandon Glanton, Vidal Riley, Chevon Clark. There may be some more fights on it, but these are terrific.
They really are. Liam Smith, you know, coming back. What has he got left at this stage? You know, there was obvious injuries going into that last fight against Chris Eubank Jr. The fight was cancelled, then it was back on. He wanted to go through with a fight, didn't go his way. So now the question marks that are hanging over Liam Smith. Has he still got it? Aaron McKenna, unbeaten in 19 fights, good fighter, very strong, very relentless in his pressure, and that will be an absolute barnstormer.
Well, Anthony Yarde is going to join us in the studio in the next few minutes, but next we hear from heavyweight superstar in the making, the one and only. I sat down with him, Moses Itauma. Gareth Inoue, Spencer the Omen, Oliver, my wing man tonight. Coming up shortly, we have Anthony Yarde joining us in the studio to talk about the planetary alignment, his spirituality, and what he dreams about when he sleeps at night. Does he dream about fighting? The handsome erudite Anthony Yarde joins us next. But first, a few days ago, I sat down. What are you laughing about, Oliver? A few days ago, I'm just trying to be erudite on the show.
I'm laughing at Anthony Yarde there in the gallery,
you can see him
mate.
in the
That's
gallery,
what I'm
can you?
laughing
Okay,
at.
fair enough. Earlier this week, I caught up with heavyweight sensation, the rising star that is Moses Itauma, to talk all things heavyweight boxing. Here's what he had to tell me.
People like myself calling the takeover. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about when people are projecting you forwards as to what you could ultimately be?
I don't really pay attention to it. It's nice to hear, but doesn't do me no favours. It's like, at the end of the day, I'm here entertaining for you guys. So if you guys are calling me that, that's good, that's your opinion. But I still got a job to do, no matter what your opinion is. Or I know it's a good opinion, but it doesn't do me no favours if I take that in.
Is this the toughest sport on earth?
I don't know. I haven't played other sports. So, I mean, boxing is pretty hard. But being the heavyweight's a lot easier than being a lightweight where they have to shave 15, 16 kilo in under a week. So it depends. It depends. I haven't done any other. I haven't played other sports, so I wouldn't be able to tell. But I know boxing's not easy.
How do you see this year going ahead? You know, people are saying, oh, put him in with Filip Hrgović. There was talk about Joseph Parker last year. We know that the world champions at the moment are Alexander Usyk, and Joseph Parker and Daniel Dubois will contest the IBF title in a few weeks' time. How do you feel about fighting with the likes of Justice Huni this year, about Filip Hrgović, guys further up the food chain?
I invite all them fights. Listen, I'm confident in myself, and that's it. Like, I invite all them fights in.
Do you?
I'm not too bothered. I literally said, like, I've been boxing for more than half my life. Like, I'm confident when I get into the ring with these guys. Like, it's not a new sport to me. Like, I know the square circle, and all them names you mentioned, I'd happily take them fights.
It's a young man's sport. You're a very young man. Do you want to be in and out of the sport at a young age?
I don't know. I'm not thinking about it. I don't know. I just know that I wanna fight again, and that's it. Listen, I don't like talking about what's 5 years, what's 10 years down the line, because life might change. Do you know what I mean? I might wake up tomorrow and I lose a foot, then there's no choice. Do you know what I mean? So
well, hopefully you don't.
I mean, but that's like,
yeah.
Like, I don't like to make plans or none of that, because it's just, life's just gonna hit something at you that you're not expected.
What about those accolades, though, that everyone fights for? Want to be a world champion, want to be an undisputed champion. Do those things go around your head? Are they longer term ambitions?
I think a lot of people want the things that come with world title. I don't think if someone was to say that, oh yeah, you win a world title, but it doesn't mean that this, then they wouldn't win it. I think winning a world title, and obviously you get the money, you get the attention, you get the respect. I think that's what they like about it, and obviously that's what I do it for.
So there's lots of comparisons because of your age made with Mike Tyson at the moment, who is the youngest heavyweight champion of the world. He was the self-styled baddest man on the planet. Mm-hmm. Are you a good guy trying to be bad, or a bad guy trying to be good?
Good guy with bad intentions. Nah, I don't know. I'm not trying to be anything.
Is there a bad man in you?
No, but like, I don't.
You look like a bad man when you're fighting.
Thank you, but I don't. I get really stuck with interviews, because it's like some people like analyze life more than I think about it. And then when you say it, I'm like, that sounds right, but I wasn't thinking about that way. So I'm not a bad guy trying to be good. I'm not a good guy trying to be bad. I'm just me, and I'm just trying to get through this boxing game healthy with a load of money.
The only other person I've really asked that to is John Jones, the UFC fighter, and he gave an amazing answer, and he was like, God, I really need to think about that. I'm definitely a bad guy trying to be good, and it's kind of gone viral for a few years. And I've known you for a couple of years now, and I've seen you mature. I think you're stronger in front of a camera and interviews than you used to be. You used to be quite reticent. You're not as reticent now.
It's hard because, like, it's when you first turn professional, all you get asked is, "Oh, what's expected of you?" And then when people say what they're expected to do or what they think they're going to do, they sound big-headed. But then you can't ask about your history because you haven't done anything.
Yet.
It's your first pro fight.
Yeah.
So now I can actually talk about something. I can talk about a fight with Marius Wack. I can talk about boxing in Saudi. I can talk about Tyson. Whereas when I first turned professional, usually the questions I was always going to be asked was, what are you going to do? And then when I say what I'm going to do, you're just like, what are your thoughts on this person, that person? It's a lot easier now to talk about something when I've achieved something.
That was in Alan Smith's gym in Bromley. You know Alan. He's got his motorbike tucked in there. It's a tiny gym. Sam Noakes was training that day and sparring. He's a very impressive young man, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I love the way that, his thought process, he thinks like a young fighter, that he doesn't try to think too much into it. He doesn't look too deep into it. All he thinks about is himself. And as a boxer, if you're thinking about what they're doing, the opponent, then you're losing. You've got to make the opponent just think about what you're doing. And his thought process is very much like that. He says, listen, don't want to talk about this, don't want to talk about that. I just want to think about my next fight and get on with it, and then we'll move on from there. They're not interested in history, not interested in legacies right now. He's right at the beginning of his game. He understands it. He's got his feet on the game. He's a very mature young man.
Had a fantastic chat about his upbringing as well, coming to South London, Kent, when he was 3-4 years old. Mother Slovakian. Lots of fighters in the family. Dad Nigerian, very athletic man. We've both met his dad already. He's a lovely man. Obviously, Carol, his brother, got him into the sport. What I really like about him is he listens to all the questions and he answers with the broad shoulders of an older man. Francis Warren, his manager, was there that day. Francis said to me, and it was used in a big headline in a piece I wrote with that as well, he's a Michael Phelps, a Tiger Woods, a Roger Federer, a Luke Littler, an Emma Raducanu. Could we be looking at someone that dramatically brilliant?
A future superstar of the sport, yeah. He's a heavyweight, and I think that he's the next superstar of British boxing, without a doubt. I don't think it's a matter of
division.
Of course it is. Of course it is. And everybody outside of just your boxing fan knows the world heavyweight champion. And I think Moses Itauma will be that guy. He will be the next heavyweight champion for sure. Not a matter of if, but when. And he's got the right guy in Frank Warren behind him. And Frank knows how to navigate and direct fighters to world titles, especially those heavyweights.
Right. No dreaming here. On the spot, I'm going to ask him what he dreams of. 20-year-old mind, by the way. He is 20. Who do you think, because Turki Al Sheikh threw it out there, he'd like him to break the record of Mike Tyson, which is 24 months, 22 days, I think it is. And then it's Sonny, and then it's Floyd Patterson, then it's Muhammad Ali. He'll probably beat both of those, because they were like 22 when they won the world title. Who do you think? Is it a Kubrat Pulev for him next, who holds the WBA regular? Is it a Filip Hrgovic? Who do you think he should fight next?
Kubrat Pulev. He's the WBA regular champion. It's something that I mentioned on the show with Simon Jordan and Jim White. Actually, when Turki Al Sheikh was on there, and he said, Frank, as soon as I mentioned it, Frank, make that fight, because it makes sense. We're talking about breaking Mike Tyson's record. He's got until May the 19th to do that. Kubrat Pulev is a fight that he would win right now.
I don't think it is going to be Kubrat Pulev. I'm hearing other things, but I will not say it right now because we'll be breaking the embargo, but we will hear about it very soon. Farico Moses Itauma. I don't know why I'm doing it in a Canelo accent, but never mind. Up next, we have light heavyweight Anthony Yarde in the studio after it was announced yesterday that he will fight Lyndon Arthur for a third time. Yep, a trilogy fight on the Chris Eubank versus Conor Benn undercard on April the 26th, rather than the 25th. I'm getting a bit Eubank-like then, wasn't I?
Well, he's on the show, mate.
Hotspur Stadium. Do get in touch with the boxing dreams you may have had in your life. 03717 223344 or text us on 81089.
Pedro Neto's got to do his job. You know, whether it be Felix on that other side, Sancho on that side. In a 90-minute game, we always give up a chance.
Got 13 recoveries, 100% tackle success rate.
That lapse of concentration and to allow him when we're in behind is why Chelsea fans say, calma, relax.
Is there a bit of blood coming from the mouth of Ralph Vilkans now? Straight jab and a right hand into the body and an uppercut inside and a left hook from Yarde.
98-92, declaring your winner, Anthony Davies from the East, Yarde!
My only focus right now is the fight that I've got coming up.
Have you got
26th.
a dream in your mind that you've had about different fights, though, or you're in a ring, or it's a nightmare, or it's a dream where you're going to get the great thing, you're lifting everything above your head, your hands are being raised? Have you had it?
I've had daydreams, mainly, but in terms of being fully asleep, I've had maybe a couple in my whole career. I don't know why that is, but yeah, I don't know. When I go to sleep, I try to be at peace as much as possible, thinking about nothing.
Well, Lyndon Arthur, go again. Yes. April the 26th for the third time. It's the trilogy. One apiece. I mean, surely this guy now must be ingrained in the brain a little bit. I talked to Gareth about, you know, different fighters that think differently, and like, so I was very intense, and like that was in my mind the whole time in the build-up. Like, fighters are like that. You go to sleep and you wake up thinking about the fighter. Surely, for a third time, you won a piece, Lyndon Arthur, on this huge platform at this stage of your career, must be in your mind.
For me, it's not really him. It's me being the best version of myself, and me, again, getting to the stages I want to get to in my career. Again, it's a massive platform. Turkey Al Sheikh has done amazing things for boxing. It's my first fight on his show. So I'm appreciative, and got to make the most of it.
Were you saying about, you know, it's not about him, it's about where you want to get to or everything? else, but he's standing in your way right now, and it's at this very important stage of your career. Like I say to you, you know, you won that last fight. He won the first fight in lockdown, behind closed doors, unusual circumstances. So I can understand underperforming in that fight. You got the victory in the 4th round in that second fight just 2 years later, and done it in massive style. But now we go again. But now this is really, really important on this huge platform, and what lies ahead for you. You talk about Joshua Buatsi, other world title fights. You had that brilliant fight with Better Biev, but it's a must-win situation here, so it must be very intense for you.
I feel like every fight I'm in has always been a must-win. That's just me and my mentality. It don't matter who I'm in the ring with, because again, if I didn't win these fights before today, no one would want to speak to me. I wouldn't be spoke about. You know, you just fade off into the background. So in my mind and my mentality, every opponent that's put in front of me, I've got a job to do on it.
So you were in talkSPORT recently, or you did an interview with us where you said that politics was in the way.
Yes.
What's shifted? Where have the goalposts moved then for this to happen?
I think just time.
Timing.
Timing. Time. I haven't lied about anything. Everything I've said throughout the whole process has come to fruition. I was out of contract. I had a fight under Sky Sports Boxer. I've done a 1-fight deal with them. And again, now I'm in a position where I'm fighting on the 26th of April.
And the threat of Lyndon Arthur, obviously he outboxed you in the first fight, and it was in lockdown. Was it the Albert Hall one that we were at? Yeah.
Split decision. Yeah.
Split decision. He outboxed you that night. I think that's fair to say. I know you were disappointed you didn't get the decision.
Yes.
But you thumped back in the second fight. Yeah. Dominant performance. Is that what you're going to deliver third time around?
100%, because I'm still annoyed about the first fight. Again, when I watch it back, when I was in the ring, I felt as if I won the fight. When I watch it back, I didn't think I'd done as well as I should have done. I should have got him out of there.
Not busy enough.
I wasn't busy enough. I was getting hit with silly jabs. But in terms of actually a fight, I've watched that fight back so many times. I would never actually agree that I lost the fight. Maybe a draw. And that's why it was a split decision, because the judges were split. The second fight, I was upset. I was angry. And I'm angry going into this fight as well. I've got a job to do.
I think the first fight, you know, when you go, like we was in COVID times, behind closed doors, no atmosphere. For a fighter, when you're doing that, you feed off the crowd. Certain fighters get energy from the crowd, and you do perform differently by the crowd's reaction and whatnot. That lifts you in fight. So I totally understand that first performance. You can forget about that one. The second one, you did do the job. But this one is a huge opportunity for you here, because we're on a Riyadh season card. Turki Al-Sheikh is making things happen, you know, in boxing. He is the man that is taking all the politics away from it. So for you, you know, getting the opportunity, this must be huge for you.
And also, I'd add to that, co-main, 60,000 people at Spurs. What does that do to your bones?
Well, I've headlined before. You know, Better Biev was in
Wembley Arena. We were there. We were there all week. It was amazing.
Massive event.
Fight of the year almost. I think we voted it as one of the
won.
It was insane, mate. It was insane.
But this is stadium time.
Yeah, but for me, it's like when you get into the ring, everything becomes very small anyway.
Yeah.
You're only in that ring unless you're the type of fighter where your mind's elsewhere. You're looking around, looking at the environment.
You're not universal then. You're focused on that grain of sand that you're being.
Exactly, I'm very inner. I've got a job to do.
Anthony, mate, I've got to say it. You know I'm going to bring it up. I've got to do it, mate. You're a massive Arsenal fan. You're fighting at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, mate. Talk to me about that. And we your mates, your Arsenal fan
Is that
mates.
Why you're blanking the stadium?
For me, it's just an honour to fight in the stadium.
That is a wicked stadium, by the way.
It's beautiful.
As far as stadiums go, it's the best.
It's the best. It's the best stadium. I can humbly say that as an Arsenal fan.
It's been built like it's a fighting stadium as well, because it goes up to the atmosphere.
Up. And I went to the was it Fury against Chisora? That was in Tottenham
on
Stadium.
December the 3rd. That was as well. They did a marvel there, pulling it off in the winter, didn't they? And also, of course, the first Anthony Joshua Alexander Usyk fight. Were you there? You were there in your finery.
I didn't go. I watched it on TV. I watched it on TV. I was in the gym.
There you go.
I was training, and then as soon as I finished training, they were coming out.
It's got an amazing. I mean, Wembley Stadium is amazing, but the acoustics at Spurs, and you're literally. There's not lots of high rise around there. It's kind of 2 3-story buildings, and then suddenly it looks like a spaceship that you're going up to in the middle of the, I don't want to say the hood, but in the middle of Tottenham.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
It's like 5 layers, mate. It's just like insane. It's like a purpose-built fighting stadium.
Yeah,
That is
absolutely.
what it's like.
Can I ask what that intensity that you've kept inside yourself, that you're still angry about the first fight, does that make you want to put it on him again? Like
100%. I feel like we don't necessarily like each other. That's from after that first fight. The first fight I went through, I was going through a lot. During COVID, I lost 5 family members.
You did.
And again, I'm a professional.
Rest in peace, yeah.
Professional, and I still want to go out there and entertain fans and, you know, carry on with my career, etc. The fight didn't go my way, but it was his actions after that fight. You know, the bragging and saying, oh yeah, I'll beat him with one hand, easy, all that kind of stuff. When it was a split decision. So again, there's animosity.
Yeah, that never leaves, does it? You know, when that happens, once that seed's been planted, man, that's always there. I know it's like a gladiatorial sport and you get that mutual respect for your opponent.
Yeah, of course.
But I understand that.
For me, as soon as that bell rings, it's beef. Again, I'm from East London, so, you know, like when you're in school and then everyone's talking and saying, oh, 2 people got a fight or whatever, your mindset changes. So as soon as that bell rings, I'm a different person.
Well, I remember one of the biggest things will never forget about you is the day you got on a bus and there were like 40 other kids from a gang.
Oh, yeah,
and you had to go and sit on the bus. Is this in Hackney or is it in Islington?
No, Leytonstone.
In Leytonstone, yeah. Different postcode. Yeah, the postcode thing.
Yeah.
And you knew that you'd survive from it. And you had an energy to stop 40... Maybe it wasn't 40, but it felt like 40.
It could have been more.
40.
It could have been
who
more.
were going to take your life away from you.
Yeah, you know what? And this is why I say, again, thank God for the position I'm in today, because I faced a lot of situations when I was growing up, being from the area that I'm from. So what happened with me is, luckily, someone that was with them recognised me. And he was waving at the bus saying, yo, like, stop. I know him. And then when he took off his mask, I said, oh, and I named him. And then one of the boys was like, I don't care. It was just one of them things where, again, energy.
And at the time, if you're listening to this, Anthony Yarde was kind of on the verge at the time, if I remember this right. We're going to go to break in a minute. On the verge of throwing javelin for Great Britain at the time.
No.
Was that later?
Tessa Sanderson was an Olympic javeler, and I was running for her academy doing a 100-metre sprint.
It's unbelievable. Oh, you were sprinting?
Yeah, I was sprinting.
I think you should have thrown the javelin for Great Britain. You might still throw the javelin. You're listening to Fight Night on talkSPORT with me, Gareth Davies, and Spencer Oliver. Anthony will stay with us for the next 10 minutes. We're going to get into the rest of the light heavyweight division with Anthony next. This is Fight Night on talkSPORT. Welcome back to Fight Night on talkSPORT. I'm Gareth A. Davies. Spencer Oliver is in the studio with me, as is the one and only Anthony Yarde. We have got so much coming up for you tonight. Zelfa Barrett joins us, teammate of Lyndon Arthur, of course, trained by the great Pat Barrett. Anthony, we've got loads to get through till the top of the hour with you. First of all, light heavyweight, your light heavyweight rival, Joshua Buatsi, who we all want to see you in the ring with, joined us on talkSPORT last week and discussed the possibility of fighting this man alongside us in the studio tonight.
Does this fight, do you want this fight, and does this fight happen in 2025?
I hope it happens this year. I saw Yarde, I think, on the weekend, and I said to him, you should always do what you're going to do, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what I have to do, which is to keep active, to have these guaranteed fights and purses that are available to myself. I said, in the meantime, do what you're doing. I hope I definitely see you down the road, and I hope that happens, but there's no way I'm going to hit a pause button to make sure someone gets their stuff sorted out. No way. I'm going to always do what I'm doing. And like I said, after the Aziz fight, all these things came out about him and Warren. Cool, sort that out. But in the interim, I'm going to do what I'm doing.
Right, so the fight was derailed for a little while because of contractual stuff, boxing politics. We won't go into the boringness of that tonight. OK, we'll leave it. Let's just move on to the efficacy of you and him, Buatsi, meeting in a ring later this year. Do you believe you're on a collision course?
But for me, it's like, I still don't understand why we haven't got a fight date yet. I still don't understand, because there's all this talk about he had this to sort out, I had that to sort out. For me, it's all nonsense, because it was all meant to happen. And then he chose to fight somebody else. And then again, I was promised that the fight will happen after the Hutchison fight. And then my thing was sorted by then. Remember, let's go to Stamps. I thought he was there. He had already had his fight with Hutchison, so we was meant to fight. That was meant to be our next fight. Then he agreed to fight Smith. So let's not start, trying to swindle anything. We was meant to fight.
Are you worried that the Callum Smith was the #1 super middleweight in the world till Saul Canelo Alvarez took the belts away from him? He's 6'5". He's very comfortable at 175 pounds, light heavyweight. Are you worried that this could go wrong and that you maybe end up facing Callum Smith?
No, because my career is not defined off of Joshua Buatsi. If anything, Joshua Buatsi's career has been, built off of my name. When Eddie Hearn done a very, very good job at promoting Joshua Buatsi, because as soon as he turned professional, he linked his name to mine. And I feel like that's why we're here now, because Eddie Hearn started that pot of the two fights happening. And for me, if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. My career is not based on him. But I've tried to make the fact... No, there's no ooh. It's because it's becoming frustrating now, because same way he's saying he's not waiting when he wasn't waiting, I am definitely... I spoke to him face to face as well. I said, just tell me what it is so I can do my own thing. I'm not waiting for no person. Because if someone genuinely don't want to fight me, or they're being advised to go other routes, why am I waiting around?
Spence, we'd be so disappointed if that fight never happened.
So would I.
Listen, we're talking about legacies, and when you're talking about legacies, modern eras and British fights that should have happened that we didn't get happen, Joshua Buatsi, Anthony Yarde is up there, mate, because this fight should have happened a couple of years ago. Anthony's done the right thing, by the way, in saying, listen, I'm taking my own path. I know where I'm going. I've had a couple of world title shots already. He's had Kovalev and he had Beterbiev. He's looking to get that world title again, and he's going to take that career path. He's not waiting for anyone. So I totally understand what he's doing, but I do believe that you're both on this bill for a reason. I think if you both come through victorious, we do get that fight next, because it makes sense. It's public demand. People want to see that. Anyone
I
want to
see this fight. I want to be involved in this fight. So it's frustrating when you've tried and you've done all these kind of things and you're trying to make it happen. I've spoken to Joshua Buatsi personally on the phone and face to face. So again, it was a bit disappointing that he chose to fight somebody else, etc. You can't say anything about money. I heard him mention something about money, because he would have got more money for fighting me. 100%, everyone knows that. For me, for now, my only focus is Lyndon Arthur. in the future, this fight is definitely going to happen, I believe.
You with Boazzi, Conor Benn with Eubank, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. It's one of those fights that you've just got to see. It's got to see. Look, let's bring up something else from this week's Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and of course my colleague Spencer Oliver. Simon Jordan made a claim that you're open to moving up a weight division as well. Listen to this.
We've had him on the show, Spence. Lions in the room. Lions in the room. Anthony Yarde. He's talking about, not fighting Josh Boazzi because it's Josh Boazzi's fault. He's fighting Callum Smith now. but he's now talking about potentially being open to the idea, as was Tundi, of going up to cruiserweight. Do you like that for Anthony Yarde?
Anthony Yarde?
Oh, listen. It's like it's frustrating to me that people still question my character. I will fight anybody. I've proven that. I've shown that. As long as the situation becomes right, and I believe it's fair, I'm in the ring. I've shown that I fought Beterbiev in London. I went to Russia. I actually travelled to Russia to fight Kovalev in his own backyard.
Mate,
Tractor Town.
I've got it. Australia, Opataya, Anthony Yarde. Come on, any boxing fan wants that.
I'll fight anybody.
You're ranked 4 and above with all the sanctioning bodies. Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol go at it again on February the 22nd. If Beterbiev comes out on top, he'll have won 2 out of the 2 fights. He didn't like it the other day when I said I'd like Bivol to win because I want to see a trilogy. You probably don't want that either. Would you like to get back in with Beterbiev?
100%.
Would you like to fight Bivol? Because these fights are enormous as well, Anthony.
100%. I've said it publicly. I've said it to myself first. I want the biggest fights out there. That's why I'm in the sport. I want legacy, and this is why I'm challenging people like Beterbiev. You know, when he's got 100% knockout ratio, he was 18-0 when I fought him, or 17-0, all knockouts. They put his name there forward. I said, absolutely, put me in the ring with him. I don't care.
Did he win that first fight in your view? Will he win the second fight?
I did think he won the first fight, very small margin. I think in the second fight he actually could stop Bivol if he goes to the body more.
Yeah.
That's just what I believe.
I agree with you. I think that, Bivol's great at controlling that space, but Beterbiev is even better at taking that space away.
Yes.
And you two had fight of the year, man. Like, I'm telling you, I was commentating on that fight, and I was there, and I know looking into a fighter's eyes, and you're looking at the fighter as he was walking back to the corner after some of those rounds, I'm going, this kid is digging deep. He is digging deep. He is having to find something here. He went soul searching in a couple of those rounds. Don't care what anyone says. I saw it. And he knows it as well. He's going, I wasn't expecting this. He was surprised. He was surprised.
I saw a clip as well when he done an interview and they asked him about me, and he said he can tell that I prepared very well for that fight.
Yeah.
I asked him for the rematch immediately. We was both in the medic room getting stitches. I had like a little scratch underneath my eye. He had quite a big scratch on the top of his eye.
Did.
We were both getting stitches, and then I said to his translator, I want the rematch immediately. Like, it was such a good fight, let's get a rematch. He looked up at me and he said, no.
Yeah.
Because obviously he was going on to bigger things with becoming undisputed. Congratulations to him as well. But I've been calling for it. I've wanted that rematch.
Sometimes you don't want to go over old ground, mate. When they're that tough, trust me, I've had fights like that where you just go, no thanks, mate, I'm done there.
Anthony, a big thank you for making the journey into talkSPORT Towers tonight. Don't go anywhere. We're discussing another superstar next, Naoya Inoue, who knocked out yet another opponent yesterday. We'll break it down next on Fight Night on talkSPORT. Thank you, Anthony Yarde.
Thank you.
the Toffees to the Tractor Boys, the Eagles to the Seagulls, Gunners, Bees, Hammers and Magpies, Premier League teams have got a load of crazy nicknames. Ever wondered where they came from? Let's start with Everton. They're dubbed the Toffees, but why? Well, because when the club was formed, just down the road there were two local toffee shops. Ye ancient Everton Toffee House and Mother Noblet's Toffee Shop were big fan favourites. Next, they say if you can't beat 'em, join 'em, and that's exactly what Ipswich Town did when it came to their nickname. The term Tractor Boys used to be chanted by their opponents as a way of putting the team down for their farming background. But during one game back in the late 90s, Ipswich were 1-0 up and they decided to flip the script. 1-0 to the Tractor Boys, they sang, and a new nickname was born. Let's head to Leicester, famous for more than just a red, well, orangey cheese and Jamie Vardy. Leicestershire's also the birthplace of fox hunting, hence the Foxes. Next up, turns out apples are not the only fruit that don't fall far from the tree. Bournemouth's nickname, the Cherries, comes from the fact the club's stadium was originally built right next to a bunch of cherry orchards. This next story actually involves two club nicknames. It started with Crystal Palace. They were having an absolute nightmare run back in the early 70s. They'd been relegated after a terrible spell and manager Malcolm Allison decided enough was enough. He wanted a new nickname, something strong, fast and destined for success. Something exactly like an eagle. But there's more to this one. Brighton were in search of a nickname too, and Palace finally gave them what they needed. In a heated match between the two back in 1976, Palace fans began chanting, "Eagles, Eagles," and some clever Brighton fans came up with the perfect reply, "Seagulls, Seagulls." Not all club nicknames have a crazy story though. Take the Gunners. That just comes from the fact a group of munitions workers in the Royal Arsenal factory in Woolwich set up the club in 1886. On the flip side, some nicknames seem simple, but there's a bit more to them, like West Ham. The Hammers is actually nothing to do with the ham part of the name. It comes from the fact the club used to be called Thames Ironworks FC and was made up of workmen and shipbuilders. So next time the away end's chanting their crazy nickname, you'll now know exactly where it came from.
A terrific victory, first round victory. It's time for him to rise up.
Listen, new European super lightweight champion. Yep, he's up there in the world rankings. Only a matter of time before now he goes on and gets that world title shot. Or could it be? Could it be the fight that we all want to see? The British fight fans want to see. Adam Azim.
Indeed. Well, we'd love to see that fight. Well, obviously, we're at Adam Azim, his fight against Lipinets next week on talkSPORT Live. Comms and everything from there. The team will be there. But yesterday, the monster Naoya Inoue defended his undisputed bantamweight crown, super bantamweight crown it was actually, with a dominant fourth round KO over Yi Jun Kim. Eddie Hearn raised questions about why Inoue is yet to face a particular opponent. Listen to this, Spencer.
Naoya Inoue is straight ducking MJ Akhmadaliev. He's been ordered to fight him twice, right? He's had 2 gimme fights now instead of fighting Akhmadaliev. And now, well, tomorrow, no, Monday, the WBA will write to Naoya Inoue and they will say, enough's enough. You have to fight Akhmadaliev next, or you will be stripped of your WBA world title and you will no longer be undisputed. And watch this now. Naoya Inoue will vacate his WBA world title.
Well, Eddie Hearn being the stargazer that he is, predicting in the crystal ball. I'm going to throw this at you, Spencer Oliver. Let's have an opinion about this. Akhmadaliev, who is Akhmadaliev? I know he's very seasoned and he's a brilliant fighter and very dangerous, but who is he?
At this stage of Naoya Inoue's career, exactly that question, Gareth. Who is he?
Naoya Inoue is number 2 pound for pound in the world, isn't he? Or 2 or 3.
For the people that may not know Naoya Inoue, he's in the top 3 pound for pound. He's a 4 division world champion, 2 weight 2 division, undisputed champion. Naoya Inoue, I tell you where he goes next. He's been light fly, super fly, bantam, super bantam. You know, he's gone through the divisions, winning world titles and getting undisputed, etc. Where does he go next? He moves up. He's just signed with Riyadh season.
Yeah.
The fight was there. It was a brilliant performance against Kim. Just showed his class. Absolutely dominated and absolutely iced him.
Don't call him on, I say, because Kim made a massive mistake.
Yeah,
didn't
Kim
he?
called him on, and the body shot was crippling, and then he landed a big right hand. The fight was over, but it was calculated. It was meticulous in that finish. It was brilliant.
This guy is a modern great. He's called a monster because I think it's 26 knockouts from 29 fights now. He is so destructive. He's come up through the weight divisions, as you say, 4 weight divisions, not just winning world titles, but dominating the best in the divisions. He's stepping up to a 5th weight division. He's got the credence and the belief of Turki Al Sheikh now, who wants him to fight. Who did he mention? Nick Ball. And this is a fight we've been pushing for. I've been talking about it for a year. Stylistically, Ball is a squat, powerful pocket rocket who comes at you all night. He could hurt Naoya Inoue. Size, weight divisions for a reason, sizes for a reason. It could be a step too far, but do you know what? How thrilling is that fight?
Listen, it's a great fight, and it's a fight that I called for, and Turki Al Sheikh come on the show, and he actually said that's a fight that he would love to make. Naoya Inoue, who's gone through the weight divisions, 5'5". Nick Ball's 5'2". He's short, he's squat, he's very, very tough, the wrecking ball, and he is a great fighter, and stylistically, that is the guy that gives Inoue the most problems. Nick Ball is just so tenacious. He keeps coming, but he's very educated in his attacks as well. He's not just, reckless in his approach. He's educated. He takes his time. He picks the shots well, but the work rate, the input, the output is incredible, and that he could give Inoue some problems.
Yeah, and I'd really like us to start to understand the personality that Naoya Inoue has as well. The Ariake Arena full to the brim again with fans. Late replacement, by the way, because his opponent had cut his eye, couldn't fight him. That was delayed from, I think it was Boxing Day, wasn't it? They were going to fight originally. Sam Goodman, injured again. So there has been a bit of a disappointment. This guy didn't have the record that we wanted him to have. But the thing is, if he is against someone like Nick Ball, and it's projected, this is a guy who's a real romantic, loves his wife and his children. His favourite movie is Aladdin. He loves going to Disneyland. I want to hear all these stories from him. I want to see him potentially fight outside Japan. My view is it'll be a Riyadh season. The Riyadh season was on his shorts last night. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, it was across the waistband.
Across the waistband. Worth noticing. Because maybe they're going to move their market into Japan. 50,000 people. I think Nick Ball, if he fights him, Spencer, is going to have to travel.
I don't think he goes to Japan. I think it happens in Saudi Arabia, or I'll give you something else. I'm
not sure about that.
Yeah, I believe it does. I don't think it happens in Japan, because I think that they want to make a bigger star out of Naoya Inoue. You're right in what you say, Gareth. He's a huge personality, and I think that he could become a superstar of the sport if they take him out of Japan. Look how many
No, I disagree. Leave him in Japan, have 50,000 in the arena, fight Nick Ball over there, make him go over there to fight. I don't think we want to drag him to Riyadh.
Why not?
Because I think he should be in front of 50,000 of his adoring fans.
Yeah, no, I totally
And we all go there.
I totally
I'd like the circus.
That.
I'd like us all to travel there. I'd like to broadcast from the... I would like to broadcast.
You want to go to Japan?
No, I've been to Japan. I've worked with the UFC in Japan presenting. I want to go to Japan because I want to see him in his homeland.
Yeah.
I think that projects Saudi Arabia towards Japan. I think it does a bigger job for them. I think it's going to be an amazing arena. Rather than, I don't think we're going to get 50,000 Japanese travelling to Riyadh.
No, I don't either, but I think that that's where a lot of the fights are happening, and I just feel that that's where it would land. If he was fighting Nick Ball, if they want to do it on neutral ground, that is where it would happen. You've got to remember,
I'm
Frank
not an
Warren,
advocate of neutral ground. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, mate, but that's where
Who's
boxing
the
goes
A-side?
now.
Who's the
That's
A-side?
where the boxing...
Who's the A-side?
Turki Al Sheikh.
No, he is.
He is the
good
A-side,
answer.
mate.
Very good answer, but in boxing terms, Naoya Inoue is the A-side.
Inoue is, but what I'm saying is, with the landscape of boxing right now, you go Nick Ball and Queensbury, Frank Warren, they're very powerful. They've got that association with Riyadh season, Turki Al Sheikh, and I think that from their side, they'd say, let's do it on neutral. That's where I think it would land, Gareth.
It's not. No, it's all about Naoya Inoue, Nick Ball, even though we wish him the best. Listen, saddle up your horse for a minute. We'll get back to it. We'll do Mr. and Mrs. again a bit later. Before we continue, let's cross over live to Dubai, where our colleague Adam Cattrall has been watching Usman Nurmagomedov against the Irishman Paul Hughes. Nurmagomedov won by majority decision. Adam, run us through tonight's action, my friend.
Boys, great to hear from you. I'm still currently in the Coca-Cola Arena here in Dubai. It has just finished. It was a long event, I'm going to be honest. We had 11 fights this evening. No major real talking points up until that main event. And then, boy, did we get something very, very special. I actually think that we got probably the PFL's best main event so far in their very young tenure. As you've just said, Usman Nurmagomedov coming through on a majority decision. But that doesn't kind of tell the tale of the fight, because every single round was super, super close. Usman took the first, Paul took the fourth, fifth probably went to Usman, and then 2 or 3 are up in the air. Flipper coin on that fight. It could have gone 3-2 in the favour of Paul Hughes, but the judges decided to go. One went 3-2 in favour of Usman and 4-1 in with the other 2 judges as well. There was a point deducted as well in the third round for groin strikes. But at the end of the day, boys, we got a fantastic fight. 2 elite mixed martial artists going at it. I think we're going to see these 2 dance again. And at the end of the fight, Paul Hughes was calling for him to do it again, and maybe this time in Belfast. Imagine that atmosphere if they ran it back a second time later on this year at some point in Belfast. But the night tonight belongs to Usman Nurmagomedov getting the job done over Irishman Paul Hughes.
Yeah, I've been to Bellator in Belfast, and it was enormous. The Irish fans, of course, both in Dublin and Belfast, are amazing for mixed martial arts. Adam, so are you saying that Hughes' stock actually rose from this fight? Because he is talked about in glowing terms, along with Ian Gary, as probably the best Irish fighters out there right now. Oh, Adam's gone, is he? Ad, are you still there, Adam?
Sorry, boys, I've lost you. I've completely lost sound.
Yeah, I saw your ear come out.
Enjoy the show.
Cheers. Okay, thanks very much, Adam. We'll catch up with Adam on MMA another time. Adam, safe journey home to you. Spencer.
I wanted to tell him to put his sun cream on, to be fair. He looks a little bit red out there. It looked like he's been neglecting the sun cream there.
So what are you on about tonight, neglecting sun? Look at you. You're like the orange man. You've got a better suntan than Donald Trump.
I'm on about Adam Cattrall out in Dubai, mate.
Right, go and saddle that horse. Nick Ball next. Welcome back to Fight Night on talkSPORT with me, Gareth Davies, and him, Spencer the Omen Oliver. Next up, we're talking to this man.
He's a tracky shot from Ball. Oh, fantastic. Almost out of this world. Certainly world class. Here it comes again. Ball is irrepressible. Ball seems unstoppable. Ball, fighting like this, seems destined to climb to the true elite level in world boxing.
And still, WBA featherweight champion of the world, Nick the Wrecking Ball.
Well, he's live with us, Nick Ball, the Wrecking Man himself. Good evening, Nick. How are you?
All good, yourself?
Very good. Are you driving or not?
Yeah, just in the car.
Oh, you're not chauffeur-driven yet then, no?
No, not just yet.
Not just yet. Look, we got to ask you, TJ Doney, March the 25th in Liverpool. Great fight for you. He's just coming off a loss to a man called Naoya Inoue in 7 rounds. Are you going to better him or not?
Just not focused on that, just focused on my fight with him and doing the best I can do, and that's all you can do, isn't it? So, yeah, just focused on that and doing what I always do, which is all action for everyone watching.
How long have I been saying to you, I'm pushing for a fight with you, with Naoya Inoue? Have I not been saying that to you for about a year?
Yeah, it seems like everyone's saying it now as well, so that's what everyone's talking about, but that's all in the future. You've got to focus on what's in front of you, so get that done first, stay focused on that, and get the job done, and then that'll be in the future. Yeah, everyone wants to see it, so I'm sure it'll happen.
So Turkey coming out with it on talkSPORT the other day, that's one of his dream fights for 2025. Is that putting pressure on you?
No, it's no pressure. It's a good thing, to be honest. Yeah, it's a good thing because he's the main man, and he's saying he wants it, so he's the one making the fights happen. So if anyone's going to make it happen, it'll be him. So, yeah.
Nick, I've got to say, mate, you've had an incredible 12 months, you really have, and you sort of captured the imagination of the fight fans and people outside of the fight fans now by your wrecking ball style. Been very, very impressive. But you're in against a tough, experienced guy here on March the 15th in your hometown of Liverpool, homecoming, which must be brilliant for you. But TJ Doney, he's a very, very tough guy and very capable guy.
Yeah, he is, definitely, and that's why I'm fully focused on this fight, and yeah, just staying focused on this and doing what I've got to do, and looking to get the job done as always. Yeah, but it's going to be another good night in the city, so I'm looking forward to it.
How good is it to be fighting back in Liverpool? I mean, you've been on the road a little bit, mate. You've had to do it the hard way, and you've done that, and you've impressed globally. But getting back to Liverpool in front of your home fans, we know that the Liverpudlians love their boxing. It must be a massive moment for you.
Yeah, it is. It's special. As a kid, these are nights that you dream of, and especially doing it with all the lads in the gym. You know, I'm training in the gym with them day in, day out, and then we get to fight on the same show in the same city. You know, massive arena, everyone coming out to watch us. Yeah, it's the next level.
You'll be fighting in front of the Liverpool Republic fans, basically. They love fighting, they love boxing in Liverpool. As Spencer says, it's a very special thing for you to do. I'm just looking down this list, and I know comparisons can be odious, as Oscar Wilde said, but he's got losses to Daniel Roman, Yonat Baluta, Michael Conlan, Sam Goodman, Naoya Inoue. That's pretty good company, isn't it? If you beat him and when you beat him.
And soon to be Nick Ball, yeah, in style, so looking forward to it.
Nick, I know you say that, you know, you don't look past your opponent, and that's an obvious one, but, like, you know, after this fight, you come through victorious, you put on a great fight. People are going to be calling for you in those big fights with those big names. Gareth, like he says, been saying it for a year or so. We've all started calling for it now. Surely a dream fight for you is someone like Naoya Inoue, because a fighter likes to test himself and stretch himself. Inoue, pound for pound, definitely top 3. Yeah. And that would be a great challenge for you, right?
Yeah, 100%, because he's the fighter that everyone's speaking about, who they're calling a monster, this and that. So, yeah, he's speaking about coming up to my weight, so I'm the man at my weight. So, yeah, don't see why it couldn't happen. Everyone's speaking about it on social media. Everyone wants it to happen more than anything. So it'd be wrong for it to not happen.
We were having a row in here, Mr. and Mrs. Row that we have, Spencer and I, about just final question on Naoya Inoue. This is for now. That would you be prepared to travel to Japan, where obviously he can draw 55,000 crowd in the Saitama Super Arena? Would you be prepared to go there to fight him?
Yeah, prepared for anything really. Just things have got to be right, haven't they? But he's coming up to my weight. I'll be the champion, so I'll be the A-side. So yeah.
So you truly believe you're the A-side in that fight with him, then? Yeah.
Well, he's coming up to my weight, and I've got the belt at my weight, so I'll be the champion. So yeah, he'll be challenging for my belt. So on paper, yeah.
So, Nick, the argument that we were having in here was that Gareth thought that the fight would take place, if it happened, it would take place in Japan. I said,
think it will.
I said that, yeah, I know you did. I said that I think it happens in Saudi on neutral ground because of Riyadh season. You're obviously the champion, the relationship with Queensbury. I think if the fight lands, that's where I see it landing.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I think it'll be in Saudi Arabia, yeah. Definitely.
Okay, well, I may be wrong on that then, because you may be giving something away, but my feeling was it might go, because of the atmosphere, because of the number of people, because of the promotion of Saudi into other territories of the world, they might take it to Japan. We will find out about that. Now, there's a theme tonight. I know you're sitting in your car. I know you're not going out on the lash. Wherever you're going, we want to know. But we've got a theme tonight. Where are you going? Starbucks. You diamond. Starbucks with the missus for a night out, yeah?
No missus.
Okay, look, we've got a theme running tonight. You probably haven't heard this. I had a weird dream. I was going to play rugby for England today against Wales at Twickenham. Spence, we talked about dreams he had about against other fighters. We're talking real dreams now, not dreams that you imagine, real dreams. Do you ever dream, Nick, about fighting? Anthony Yarde was in and said that he's had 2 dreams about fighting. Do you have dreams when you're asleep about fighting?
About fighting, probably.
Or rephrase it, do you dream about fighting opponents? When you've got an opponent, like let's say you got this opponent coming up, TJ, do you have dreams like when you go to bed? Because I was saying it's on the fighter's mind.
Did you have dreams about fighting? Simple as that.
No, not really, no. Not any that I can think of. There's been little scenarios where I've been asleep and had a dream about a little situation, but not boxing.
What kind of little situation? What kind of situation?
There's loads of stories. Like dreams are mad, aren't they? But yeah,
like you're in an action movie and you're fighting your way out of a bar, or what? Like what?
Don't even know, falling off a building or something and waking up.
Okay. Gareth clearly has more dreams than all of us, I think, that's for sure.
Well, I just think I think it's an interesting thing because obviously
it is an interesting one, yeah. I'll probably have one tonight now that you've said it.
Yeah, because the thing is, Anthony Yarde gave an interesting point, which was when I go to sleep, I'm trying to be totally relaxed and I don't want my conscious mind to take my opponent into my subconscious mind when I'm sleeping, resting. Spencer, intense as he was as a fighter and charismatic and intense as he is as a person post-career, had loads of dreams about fighting opponents. We were just fascinated as to whether you might do that because you've got that. We know you're very chilled out in life, but your intensity in the way you fight brings a different personality out in you, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I haven't had none yet, but it is an interesting one. You're building up, you're training for these fights. So yeah, don't know. At night, you dream about fighting your opponent. Nah, it hasn't happened to me yet. Like.
Oh, well, that was like a lead turd tonight for me, asking you about that. Then.
No, do you know what? Do you know what it is? It's when someone plants the seed, and Gareth has now planted that seed. Next time we see you, you're going to go, do you know what, boys?
I've had these dreams. I had a dream. Yeah. I don't know. I was beating Naoya Inoue. It was in Riyadh. I punched him out in the 5th round, and I just keep having this dream every night. Beat TJ Doheny first, and we will celebrate that later in the year. Thanks for joining us, mate. Lovely to see you. Enjoy your Starbucks.
And you, nice one. See you later.
Cheers, Nick. Good luck, Nick. Big thank you to featherweight world champion Nick Ball. Up next, we're discussing what is too far sledging in boxing or smack talking in boxing after KSI let rip at Wayne Bridge last week. This is Fight Night on talkSPORT.
Pedro Neto's got to do his job. You know, whether it be Felix on that other side, Sancho on that side. In a 90-minute game, we always give up a chance.
Got 13 recoveries, 100% tackle success rate.
That lapse of concentration and to allow him when we're in behind is why Chelsea fans say, calma, relax.
Emasculate people in the build-up to a fight went too far or not. Now, KSI brought up a very painful past experience for Wayne Bridge, extramarital affairs, these kind of things, but he did it in a very, very brutal way, I thought. And Bridge pulled out of the fight 2 days later, and he said on Instagram, "These are deeply personal comments that affect mine and other families involved in the situation. I'm a family man first, and my priority is protecting them. Of course, I expected to face some criticism, but I feel like what was said on Saturday crossed a line." Now, Spencer, I thought it was distasteful. I thought it was fairly lurid. We know that KSI is a very smart kid with multiple businesses, 25 million followers. Should he have been talking about these kind of things, extramarital affairs, in the ring, straight away sledging Wayne Bridge?
No, is the answer. I think that there's a line that you don't cross, and I think that, yeah, I get the selling the fight and the trash talk, and I get the YouTuber style and what it's all about, that WWE/theatre/boxing. Get it, totally understand it, but there is a line, a code of conduct between men that you do not cross, and he crossed that line. I mean, bringing up that, I spoke to Wayne Bridge about it afterwards, straight afterwards when he was on his way home, and he said that he was going to pull out of the fight for these reasons. He's got children now that have grown up, they're older, they understand it, and they don't need to dig them things up. Wayne doesn't need the money, and he said, listen, I wanted to go in there because I wanted to test myself, and I realised it was a trigger moment. I made a mistake because this kid I knew has got no filter, and he went too far, Gareth. Yeah.
Well, obviously it involved an affair. John Terry was involved, and all of this kind of business. But what I think happened on the night was Wayne Bridge was holding back. Maybe wasn't prepared for it. Was holding back. We'd almost, and I'm pushing the boundaries here. Almost wanted. You're watching it, and you almost want him to smack KSI for saying it. I think a lot of people would have done that. You could tell that he was boiling inside. For me, there's a line on people who've passed. We had it with Leon Edwards and his opponent, Kobe Covington, when he talked about the dead father of Leon Edwards in a very despicable way.
Distasteful.
No, despicable as well. Detestable, but also despicable. You don't speak ill of the dead. There are. You don't speak ill of really, really bad personal things that have happened to people. I thought it was poor, very, very poor.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, mate. I think there was a line that just was totally overstepped, and I think, and I think Wayne Bridge done the right thing. He took that moral ground and he said, you know what? Don't need this. Don't need the money.
He doesn't need the money over his own morality.
No, absolutely.
And I thought it was a great
respect.
Look, people like we'll come to the clip from earlier in the week where it was being discussed on White and Jordan in a minute. But there are lines in boxing. For example, Deontay Wilder has said, "I want a body in my career, body in a bag during my career." I want to kill someone. Where are those lines with those kind of things for you in boxing?
He was not talking about any one individual, so you just get that. That's just trash talk, and that's Deontay Wilder, and you know, selling himself and like saying that he was not talking about any one individual. So I say, I understand. I know what he's going. All he's doing is creating headlines, because that's the world that we live in today. Is all about, you know, things going viral, headlines. So he said that, and he achieved what he wanted to achieve. But there are certain lines, certain places you do not go.
David Hay crossed the line a few times, was after headlines. I'm not even going to repeat what he said about Audley Harrison. I'm not going to repeat what he said about the Klitschko's, but he got headlines at the time. One of the biggest headlines ever was Mike Tyson when he was fighting Lennox Lewis. He said he was going to eat his children.
Yeah.
He talked about pushing someone's nose up into their brain. Was that over the limit?
I think that was when he knocked out Lou Savarese up in Scotland, actually. He talked about wanting Lennox Lewis and eating his children straight after the fight.
Lennox had no children at the time, by the way.
Absolutely. But no, again, that was not that, because he wasn't actually like, it was him trying to get that fight with Lennox Lewis at the time, because he was on that comeback trail, and like I say, Lou Savarese, and he said, Lennox Lewis, I want to eat his children. That was just the heat and I understand that. That's that theatre stuff. I think that the personal stuff like that, there's a code of conduct, man, you know, that you just don't do. And I think that KSI overstood it straight away, and that was on day one.
Did Wayne Bridge miss the opportunity to plant one on him then?
Oh, absolutely.
Would he feel better today?
You could understand him doing that without a doubt. No, I spoke to him afterwards about it. We spoke just the other day about it, and he said, you know what, I'm a man
should have pulled the trigger.
I'm a man of peace. He said, no, he said, I just had a trigger moment where I should have known it would have happened, and it didn't. I put myself into a stupid situation just because I wanted another challenge. I'm 47 years of age. I wanted to test myself, and that was a great opportunity. I was getting well paid, but didn't think about what I was going into with the YouTubers and where they go, no filter, and obviously he was going to rebirth that. And he said it was just a silly mistake, and he'll try and do it somewhere else with someone else, but obviously not with KSI or Misfits. And it was a schoolboy error from Wayne's point, I think.
Do you think we're going to get a lot of animosity and maybe some below the belt stuff when Conor Benn and Chris Eubank go at it for the next 3 months?
100%. Of course we are. Look at the history that goes back, the family feuds going back over 30 years with the fathers, and it's continued with the sons. They hate each other, and hate is a strong word, by the way, but they do hate each other. That is a fact. You know, they may respect each other as fighters, but they do hate each other, and there'll be a lot of trash talking.
And they're going to hate each other all the way to those big, huge bank payments as well. Earlier this week, Simon Jordan shared his thoughts on Wayne Bridges' decision to pull out of his fight against YouTube-turned boxer KSI.
I mean, I am in the same place that he's in. I mean, these guys are commanding big audiences. I have a just turned 17-year-old daughter who's a major fan of KSI, much to my eternal chagrin. And when I saw the clip, I thought, you know, Wayne, you must have expected that. You like Trigger out of Only Fools and Horses. You're a bit gauntlet. And then I listened to it more, and I think it's so unedifying. And listen, it's public domain stuff. And we have seen, I mean, this is not professional boxing. This is Misfits. So we have to give it the qualification. But I do think it was an undignified, unedifying, unnecessary outburst. We do see people say very unpalatable things to sell fights. We've seen Deontay Wilder tell everybody that he wants to have a body on his record. We heard Mike Tyson turning around saying he wants to eat Lennox Lewis's children and things of that nature. And so we know that these people can say stupid things. But I think that what Wayne Bridges' statement, if Wayne himself has drafted it, is a very balanced and fair and mature statement, and basically a message to this individual. I mean, what a way to behave. What a thing to have said.
I think the key is, are you selling the fight or are you denigrating the person? And I think that doesn't sell the fight. It didn't. What would have sold the fight is if he'd hit him. Because then we would have had a war on our hands. Because there would have been a massive melee. It would have generated more than there was a lot of disgust at what was said, and I think, you know, we're talking about the sport we love, and it feels unedifying, like Simon said there. It does feel unedifying, and we look back on it now, and all it did was create a collapse of the fight.
Absolutely. As soon as KSI made those remarks, it come out of his mouth.
Marketing error.
Huge marketing error. I think that he thought he was being genius in doing that, but actually it was so distasteful that as soon as he said it, everyone went, I don't want to. I hope Wayne pulls out of that. That was the common feeling.
Yeah,
and so as soon as Wayne released that statement on his Instagram, straight away you look at the comments on there and everyone's saying, "Well done, mate. You took the moral high ground. You done the right thing."
And finally, on Misfits, we've covered a few events. I don't have any issue with it. It's boxing until the bell rings. Darren Till looked pretty good, sharp shooting.
Yeah, done well.
He's a sniper with the left hand. He may get the fight with KSI next, he may not. He looked big in there as well. Bit of a mismatch against Anthony Taylor, frankly, who survived for longer than I thought he was going to do. At the end of the day, he was a wrestler and an MMA guy. Taylor, that is. How are we feeling about obviously we were at Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, which was a kind of Misfits type of event as well. How are we feeling about where Misfits is going, Spencer?
Yeah, listen, I think it's got its own home, and and I've got nothing against it at all. I enjoy it. It's entertainment. It captures a crowd. It's not your boxing purist crowd. And the boxing purists will watch the shows that we commentate on week in, week out, because that is real boxing and the big stuff going on now over in Saudi Arabia.
As long as we know what it is, then. As long as we know,
as long as you understand what it is, it's got a home for it and a place for it.
25-year-olds there, and they're all in at 7 and they all leave at 11.
Listen, I'm one of those guys that will watch them shows because I enjoy it. I understand.
Do you remember how much we laughed with the 2 versus 2 tag team boxing up in Manchester?
I thought it was
brilliant. We did
brilliant.
not stop laughing.
I thought it was brilliant, but when I heard that was happening, that's a great example actually. When I heard that was happening, I thought, this is insane, barbaric. This is like ludicrous.
But
how
we
can they allow
enjoyed
it
it,
to
actually, didn't we? Weirdly.
It worked.
As a bizarre spectacle, it worked.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it, Gareth. So listen, I understand there's a place for it, and I enjoy that space, and that's as long as people don't think that is boxing, then enjoy it.
I believe we have George Glinsky, talkSPORT.com combat sports writer, coming up next with us. We'll have that coming up after this. Fight Night on talkSPORT with me, Gareth Davies, and him, Spencer the Omen Oliver. Joining us now for a new feature on Fight Night on talkSPORT is a look back at the week, the most performing stories of the week. And joining us is talkSPORT's.com combat sports writer George Glinski, who I believe is on the line right now. Good evening, George.
Good evening, guys. How are we doing?
Very well indeed. Great to see you as always. Now listen, George, what are the top 3 performing Fight Night stories, or Fight Sports stories, sorry, on talkSPORT.com this week? What's number 3?
Well, it's been a big week for us. Of course, we're doing a lot of exclusive interviews. We were out there in London with you guys. And of course, an interview that really stood out and did really well for us performing-wise was Constantino Nanga, who, of course, is Lennox Lewis's protege. He comes from a very interesting background. He got into boxing in the most unorthodox of ways. Football hooliganism, would you believe it? Came from that, and now he's fighting on this massive Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol card. He's 12-0, and he's got Lennox Lewis in his corner, which is quite remarkable. Outside of that, we've been looking back during these sort of quieter moments in the world of boxing towards some retrospective pieces. We've been looking at some massive knockouts. We love knockouts at talkSPORT.com, and a huge knockout, Roy Jones Jr. versus Virgil Hill, 1998. We looked back at that brilliant kidney shot, which did some brilliant numbers for us as well. And then outside of that, it's Canelo versus Crawford talk, of course. That's finalising for September in Las Vegas.
Well, let's go back to that first one for a minute. Don't jump too far ahead, George. We've got lots of time with you right now, and we want you to be a regular feature. You're a brilliant writer. I would love you to be in the show and in the studio with us. Look, let's talk about that Lennox Lewis prodigy, first of all. We were there with you interviewing him. Football hooliganism, it begs the question, football hooliganism to boxing. Come on, put the meat on the bones.
He's crazy. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. He started off, he said he wanted to be a footballer, like every young lad. He wanted to be like his hero, Cristiano Ronaldo. But that didn't work out. He said, okay, we'll scrap that. That doesn't work. I want to be a football hooligan. And it was Green Street Hooligan, the film, 2005 film that him inspired, which is quite remarkable. I mean, one of the strangest stories I've ever heard.
Yeah, do you know what? I actually interviewed him there, and yeah, what a lovely guy, to be fair, and what a journey he's been on. And how did it come about, him and Lennox Lewis crossing paths? Lennox, who I spoke to as well, said, listen, I saw something in this kid. They met each other in a gym, and and they just connected straight away. And Lennox went, I can guide this kid. I love his story. I love his backstory. This is the beauty, the fascination about boxing. These kids and their backstories and how they get into boxing. Could you imagine if he goes on to achieve something with Lennox Lewis in his corner? What a story.
What a confident young man he is, and what presence he has, and what a specimen he is as well. George, take us through that second story again.
Roy Jones Jr. versus Virgil Hill. Massive knockout. Of course, I think, Gareth, you probably would have covered the fight.
Yeah, I remember it well.
It was, obviously, we usually see liver shots with the left. It was a right down to the kidney, retaining his WBC light heavyweight title at the peak of his career. I mean, to be honest with you, there was no one really stopping Roy Jones Jr. at that point. He was the pound-for-pound #1 and one of the best in the world.
Well, I think it brings me to think of him against James Toney. That was a moment. That was the moment when Roy Jones really was, for me, the #1 pound-for-pound in the world.
Masterclass. James Toney was the guy that invented the shoulder roll. People think that all come from Floyd Mayweather Jr. No, it come from James Toney, who was he was an incredible fighter. And Roy Jones Jr. that night, you're right, when he won up with that middleweight title, he schooled him. What a performance! And Virgil Hill, by the way, guys, he was pound for pound in his day one of the best fighters around, long reigning light heavyweight champion. What a performance by Roy Jones Jr.
Incredible skills. You're right to point them out, because some of the YouTube videos that pertain to that time, when you go back and watch the skills, it's just astronomically off the charts. And it doesn't surprise me at all, George, that performed so well online. So visual as well, isn't it? What's the #1 then again?
The #1 at the moment is the Crawford-Canelo finalising of negotiations, of course. A huge standout in that fight. There's no rehydration clause, which is absolutely remarkable. 168 pounds, obviously, Crawford going up 2 weight classes. And unlike we've seen with Eubank and Benn, no rehydration clause.
Yeah, but I don't think there's a need to. I don't think there's a need to with those two. Crawford's growing. He's 38 years of age. You're not going to tell Canelo that he's going to make a certain weight, are you?
Listen, Bomac, who trains Terence Crawford, said they did not want the rehydration clause in there. Why? Because he's trying to achieve greatness. He wants to go through those weights. He doesn't want anything to get in the way, he says, because that's how confident we are of beating Canelo Alvarez at his weight. We're talking about Terence Crawford here, you know, stamping his place as the #1 fighter of this generation. He does that if he beats Canelo Alvarez at his own weight. What a task he's got there.
Come on, we've got a poll to give us, but first of all, let's all three pick. George, you first. Canelo or Crawford?
I'm going with Canelo. I always pick with the bigger man. I think, you know, Crawford going up 2 weights is going to be a difficult task.
I'm going Terence Crawford. I'm going for greatness.
I'm going for Terence Crawford on points as well. I think it's going to be an almighty battle. He's got to be very active. Take the blueprint from Bivol. 1-2s, movement, score, move, score, move.
The difference between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez has slowed a lot. Everything is in single punches. He loads up power punches. Terence Crawford is the master at controlling the space, putting the shots together, knowing when to pick the pace up, knowing when to slow it down. It is a fantastic fight, but Crawford, for me, not just one of the best welterweights of this generation, but one of the best welterweights of all time. And we're talking some big names there. Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, all those names coming into the mix.
Would he have beaten Marvin Hagler?
Marvin Hagler was a middleweight.
Would he have beaten Marvin Hagler stepping up to middleweight, Spencer?
No.
I agree. George, you've been running a poll this week as well on talkSPORT. Listen, we argue all the time like this. Well, I'm going to ask about that backdrop in a minute.
Why did you ask me if he'd beat Floyd Mayweather Jr.? That's more
he would
like
have beaten Floyd. He would have beaten Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Oh, wow.
George, what's the poll that talkSPORT.com has been running this week as well?
Yeah, this week I wrote an article on the top 5 boxing chins, and we're running a poll on who is the most durable fighter of all time. At the moment, Gennady Golovkin leading the way.
Well, no, for me, it's Marvin Hagler.
Marvin Hagler would definitely be up there, yeah. I think Marvin Hagler is the man. You got to remember, he boxed people like John the Beast Mugabe. The punishment he took in that fight before winning that fight against Mugabe. Tommy Hearns, are you sure? Do you remember that right hand that Tommy Hearns had? The one that he flattened Roberto Duran with. That guy could hit. And Marvin Hagler took them all.
Glinskers, just tell us who the top 5 are.
Top 5. This was my top 5, unfortunately, so I'm going out on a limb. George Chuvalo at number 1.
Yeah.
Obviously, Muhammad Ali twice, George Foreman and Joe Frazier as well, which is remarkable to not get lifted off your feet. Jake LaMotta, Gennady Golovkin, Marvin Hagler, and Oliver McCall.
Oh, nice list there. That's 7 though, not 5, isn't it?
5.
Is that 5? Is it? I counted 7, but never mind. Right, that's 5. Okay, my counting's gone wrong. My mathematics are all over the place tonight. Right, where's George? Right, George, where are you? Because that looks like a vaulted old chapel you're sitting in. Where are you tonight?
This is a 17th century barn, believe it or not. I don't actually. This is my girlfriend's parents' house.
Okay. Right, we're learning more now. We're learning more. So you've been doing a poll this week from your girlfriend's parents' house. I hope they know you've been working there all week. You're not hidden in the attic somewhere, are you?
No, just upstairs.
Well, listen, a big thank you to combat sports writer George Glinsky. Glinskers, as I call him. Don't forget to keep up with all the latest fight news. Head over to talksport.com. This is Fight Night on talkSPORT.
From the Toffees to the Tractor Boys, the Eagles to the Seagulls, Gunners, Bees, Hammers and Magpies, Premier League teams have got a load of crazy nicknames. Ever wondered where they came from? Let's start with Everton. They're dubbed the Toffees, but why? Well, because when the club was formed, just down the road there were two local toffee shops. Ye ancient Everton Toffee House and Mother Noblet's Toffee Shop were big fan favourites. Next, they say if you can't beat 'em, join 'em, and that's exactly what Ipswich Town did when it came to their nickname. The term Tractor Boys used to be chanted by their opponents as a way of putting the team down for their farming background. But during one game back in the late 90s, Ipswich were 1-0 up and they decided to flip the script. 1-0 to the Tractor Boys, they sang, and a new nickname was born. Let's head to Leicester, famous for more than just a red, well, orangey cheese and Jamie Vardy. Leicestershire's also the birthplace of fox hunting, hence the Foxes. Next up, turns out apples are not the only fruit that don't fall far from the tree. Bournemouth's nickname, the Cherries, comes from the fact the club's stadium was originally built right next to a bunch of cherry orchards. This next story actually involves two club nicknames. It started with Crystal Palace. They were having an absolute nightmare run back in the early 70s. They'd been relegated after a terrible spell and manager Malcolm Allison decided enough was enough. He wanted a new nickname, something strong, fast and destined for success. Something exactly like an eagle. But there's more to this one. Brighton were in search of a nickname too, and Palace finally gave them what they needed. In a heated match between the two back in 1976, Palace fans began chanting, "Eagles, Eagles," and some clever Brighton fans came up with the perfect reply, "Seagulls, Seagulls." Not all club nicknames have a crazy story though. Take the Gunners. That just comes from the fact a group of munitions workers in the Royal Arsenal factory in Woolwich set up the club in 1886. On the flip side, some nicknames seem simple, but there's a bit more to them, like West Ham. The Hammers is actually nothing to do with the ham part of the name. It comes from the fact the club used to be called Thames Ironworks FC and was made up of workmen and shipbuilders. So next time the away end's chanting their crazy nickname, you'll now know exactly where it came from.
Back to Fight Night on talkSPORT. I'm Gareth and Ava, Spencer the Omen, Oliver in with me. We're going to assess the biggest stories, and it's going to be unusual in MMA with Vanessa D'Ambrosio shortly. Zelfa Barrett joins us. But first of all, Spencer, we are going to talk about divisions and leagues for boxing. Can it work? How will it work? What are the ways forward? Now, 6 months ago, there was a story put out that Turki Al-Sheikh was going to bring together all the promoters in the world under one umbrella. The sanctioning bodies were going to be pushed to one side. We were going to get weight divisions with the best fighters, the top fighters. It would go all over the world. Is it applicable? Can it work in your view?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think that it can work, but you have to understand the logistics of it a little bit more. Because yeah, it all sounds great. You're having leagues like a Division 1, 2, 3, 4, understand that. But there's a lot of fighters in the world, and where do they all fit? I mean, is it a case of having to earn your way up into there? What happens then with the governing bodies? All the belts, you know, do they...
sanctioning bodies.
Yeah, the sanctioning bodies.
They're
WBC,
not governing bodies, they're sanctioning bodies.
All right,
they
WBC,
don't govern
WBA, IBF, WBO, IBO. You know, there's a lot of... you know, sanctioning bodies out there. So what happens with those? I mean, it's very, very complicated. The answer to your question is, I think it could work, but I need to understand it more.
There's no world's governing body for boxing, by the way, if people don't know that.
All right, mate, you made your point. You ain't got to go over it 4 times because I've made one little mistake.
No, you haven't made a mistake. What I'm saying is, the problem for boxing is there isn't a world's governing body, so there's no governance for fighters on a Sunday after there have been events. You know, should Tyson Fury be in the rankings in heavyweight at the moment because he's just retired from the sport? Is it real? Is it not? There's so many debating points about who should be where. If you have a global league, what happens to those guys below 20 who are ranked below 20. How do you do that? What are we going to do with the Olympics with no Olympics around, which is worth talking about? And I heard you in the week. I agree with you. I think Donald Trump will get boxing back into the Olympics. He will not allow it not to be in the Olympics.
Los Angeles 2028 will not happen without boxing. I'm sure of that.
We will be there covering it. I'm telling you, we will be there covering it.
Totally agree with you, mate. And listen, I do understand exactly what you're saying with this, with there being no governance. I think that we could be in a changing of the times right now. We've seen what Turkey al-Sheikh, Riyadh season have done to boxing, taking the politics away. If that's their next move, I believe they could make it and make it better. A little bit like the UFC and how that's run under one umbrella.
One league,
yeah. But I can understand that because obviously boxing and the amount of boxers that are out there, the leagues and the divisions and fighters trying to work their way up, I do understand it, and it could be a change for the better.
If you had leagues like Formula One is, where you're going around the world to different places where fighters, because it's at the moment there are probably 5 zones in the world where boxing is very, very strong. You take America, you take the Middle East now, you take the Far East. I'm talking about Japan, and maybe China if Zhili Zhang can get it going. You've got all parts of Europe. You've got South America where it's very strong. Let's not
forget Africa. Africa's very strong as well.
But it is. It's in the continent itself. This is where the continent of Africa can benefit from this, because we do need to have fights there. There aren't enough fights on that continent. We hope to see Martin Bakole and Anthony Joshua there, Daniel Dubois, Martin Bakole, a new rumble in the jungle 50 years on. But for me, I don't think we are at the point yet where we can, if they spend $500 million, I think if $500 million is invested in leagues, I think it can work. But it's going to need the investment. What I worry about is this, and I mentioned it just now, you've got your top 20 rankings in every weight division. Where are the other guys coming from? How do they get into that top 20? How do they move their way up there? What happens to the small and middle tier shows?
That's what I'm saying. You've got to understand the logistics of it, and we don't quite understand that yet. Yeah, in theory it sounds great, but we need to see it a lot more. And by the way, this is not something that will happen overnight for sure, because this is a big, big project.
Well, there's a noisy Scouser on the phone right now. The last time we saw him, he just caused trouble and mayhem at Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. He was escorted out of the building, and he described it to us in detail at a bar. Tony Bellew, good evening. How are you?
How are you, boys? I've just finished working on the zone. I'm driving home listening to you boys talk about this beautiful sport that we're all involved in.
How are you, Tony? You good, mate?
I'm all right, champ. I'm doing okay, mate. All he wants to say is it can never... Listen, a boxing league sounds fantastic, and theoretically it sounds great, but let's all be brutally honest. We've all been in the game long enough. We're all big enough and ugly enough to just admit it can never... None of this can ever work until one set of rules is being put in place that everyone has to abide by. This is why the UFC will always have an upper hand on us, because it's one set of rules all the way round for every country, and that's how it's going to work. And if His Excellency Turkey al-Sheikh can put in place that boxing forms under one set of rules, so when it comes to banning people, when it comes to drug tests, when it comes to how fighters face contenders, if we can all go off one set of rules, then boxing has a chance to become the greatest sport in the world once again, like it was once upon a time.
And Tony, and Tony, like you say, who chooses who is going to fight who in the UFC? It's Dana White, and it's a small group of people. So if Turkey al-Sheikh wanted to decide that for a while, he could do it. But my issue, and both of our issues, is that there is no world governing body for the sport. It's so fractured. I can't see it happening unless Turkey al-Sheikh is going to bring a complete revolution to the sport.
No, you're right. It can't work, because everyone's got a different agenda. Every manager's got a different agenda. Every promoter has got a different agenda. You've got to understand, these people want to look after their fighters. And if they're going to look after their fighters, sometimes they're not going to want to face someone else's fighter, because they might think they're going to lose. And that's just the way it goes, because they're protecting their fighter, which they're supposed to do. It can never work. There's too many governing bodies, there's too many agendas. But the step forward would quite simply be we all fight off one set of rules.
Yeah.
That is a step forward.
And I think
it's a massive step forward.
And that's a world governing body then. That's a world governing body we need. Maybe a benefactor like Turki Al-Sheikh as the head of the world governing body.
Listen, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh actually said that, Tone. He said that that's exactly what he wants to try and achieve. This sport is so messed up at the moment that he wants to pull it like the UFC model. That was his. That's his ultimate plan and goal.
Dana White's a genius for what he's done. He's done absolutely what he's done. I've witnessed the UFC's rise from the earlier days, from the likes of the Smashing Machine, Mark Coleman, all them guys, them days, the Tito Ortiz. I've watched that sport grow. And what Dana White's done, he's a genius for what he's done. No fighter has ever been able to grow bigger than the UFC, no matter how big they grow. And let's put that into context, guys. Probably one of the most popular faces in the whole world right now is Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
And he was still never able to outgrow the UFC.
I agree with you, Tone.
That's the beauty of it. But for the sport to move forward, guys, and as you know, Turki Al-Sheikh has done an amazing job to get it to where he's got it to. But you cannot get it in place with where he wants to go with it until it's one set of rules. And for one set of rules to be put in place, it's nothing to do with money. It's about getting everybody aligned.
It's governance. It's governance.
Everyone's got to believe in it, guys.
Yeah,
everyone's got to believe in it.
I agree.
I don't think they will. I don't think they will, because you've got horrible people still on the sport. The sport still remains in the dark ages in certain patches, parts of business, parts of marketing. It still remains in the dark ages, and fighters are only starting to learn now their true worth, and that is because of Turki Al-Sheikh, that these fighters are understanding, you know what, we're the real powerhouses now, not these people sitting there and doing certain things. It's us, we're the driving marketing forces, and the likes of Anthony Joshua have been able to make the other fighters realise that. Canelo Alvarez, all these fighters.
They're too powerful though in some ways, but they're too powerful. They in the UFC they would never, like you, Tony. I've been involved with the UFC and MMA a very long time as well, and they would never allow. The UFC would never allow those fighters to become as powerful as that. Listen, I've got to ask you, I watched you abseiling this week, I think it was, falling off giant buildings and falling down cliffs and doing all kinds of terrifying things. Are you okay?
I'm okay. I've survived. Honours Mobile Company, I've done me proud, and they've let me get home safe to my wife and kids, that everyone likes to remind me of. So listen, I can't complain. I'm having a great time. The timing was boring until I met the Honours Mobile Phone Company. But yeah, I mean, I still miss punching people in the face, but I don't miss it as much as jumping off mountains and abseiling down cliffs.
Listen, it's a great substitute, that's for sure, Tone. We know you love that little adrenaline buzz. But look, talking about adrenaline buzzes, Dalton Smith tonight, first round KO, European champion now. How good was that?
He was brilliant, mate. Against Wizard tonight, he just went in, he got the job done. Listen, that boy, Wizard was never in his league. I mean, he didn't have any right to be in the ring with him, if I'm being totally honest. But that's what you do to fight no relevance in the ring with you, to get rid of him in a round or two. And that's what Dalton Smith done. He took his time, he didn't rush it, he was basically punch perfect. He was phenomenal tonight, guys. I think he's under great leadership and stewardship of his father, Grant Smith. I think he's a brilliant team around him. He's got the best promoter in the world in at the end. He's doing what he's doing. But make no mistake, guys, the next step
is world level.
Is dangerous, boys, and we all know it's a stacked division.
Yeah.
It's full of sharks, and it's only going to be tougher nights ahead. I mean, I would love to see Jack Cattrall and Dalton Smith's brains pitted against each other. That shouldn't happen anytime soon. And let me just tell you, that shouldn't happen unless it's a unification fight, in my opinion. I do want to see it one day.
But there's Josh Taylor still for a fight. There's so many great fights.
Young Adam Azim as well in the mix.
And Adam Azim's not ready for him. I'm sorry, at the moment he's not ready for him.
Do you know what, Gareth? I was asked a question about him. It's so unfair the way Adam Azim's being painted in this. I really feel for the boy, because do you know if you switch the tables round and Dalton Smith is in the same position as Adam Azim, you just say, now there's no shame in it. It's not the right time for us. That doesn't mean that doesn't detract from how brilliant a fighter I think Adam Azim is.
He is. That's right.
Adam Azim is a generational talent, but he's just not ready now, and that's not his fault. Experience deems that he's not ready yet. Dalton Smith is. He's a little bit older. He's a little bit wiser. He's been on the championship circuit a little bit longer, and that stands So let Adam Azim take it. I'm not necessarily saying let him get to 20-0 or 20, right? Because I don't believe that's the way to go in the modern day fighting now. I think that if you're good enough, you know, you're ready. It's as simple as that. But you still need that championship experience. We need to see Adam Azim tested. We've seen Dalton Smith in a couple of little scraps where he's shown his true colours, but against Zepeda, not this fight, the fight before, I thought it showed the level he's at, and I just feel now it's got to be a world title next.
Well, Tone, it's been great. Yeah, it's been great keeping you company home. You're probably nearly home by now. I can hear you whizzing down the motorway.
I'm only in it there, robbing the line, mate, so it's going to take me a few more hours yet. Thank you very much, lads. Have a great day. And just before you go, never forget, up the toffees. It's all about Everton, guys.
Indeed, brilliant. Indeed.
Bye for now.
Yeah, love you, Tony. Well done, mate.
Oh, lovely. It's great to speak to you, Tony. Thanks very much. Don't go anywhere. Super featherweight Zelfa Barrett joins us next. This is Fight Night on talkSPORT. Welcome back to Fight Night on talkSPORT. I'm Gareth and Ava Spencer, the Omen Oliver alongside me as always. Coming up, we've got Vanessa D'Ambrosio coming on to talk MMA. We will look at the Sergey Lipinets opponent, Adam Azim, next weekend. We've just been speaking about him with Tony Bellew. talkSPORT are there live and direct on the night. But on the phone now, with his own fight upcoming, The Pat Barrett kid, I like to call him, inspired by his uncle Pat Barrett, the one and only Zelfa Barrett. How are you, my friend?
Yes, mate. You okay? Yeah.
Very good indeed. How are you tonight? Where are you tonight? We've had people in cars, people driving different places. Tony Bellew razzed up just now and talking about divisional or divisions in boxing. Do you think boxing leagues could work in boxing under one banner or not, Zelfa?
I do, because you've got loads of government bodies and certain people like myself should have certain opportunities, and other people have been put in front of us. So I feel like if it's just one league, winner stays on.
Yeah, I think that when you speak to the regular fan of boxing, they get confused with the WBC, WBA, IBF, IBO, and all the different governing bodies there. They get confused with all that, don't they? And that maybe turns them away from the sport. So I understand Turki Al-Sheikh and his idea and his faulty process in saying, let's get it all under one umbrella. Boxing leagues makes it much more simple for fans to follow, and that's how we bring big-time boxing back.
Yeah, of course, I totally agree. Obviously, when there's loads of belts and whatever, certain fighters will only go in certain regions. For example, IBF, certain fighters won't go in it because of the £10 ruling. So, and these fighters in certain governing bodies where you never heard of, and you're like, how are they there? You know what I mean? So I agree with
but
it.
other people, Zelfa, would say that to have 75 or 80 odd champions in the world gives opportunity to different people. That's the argument. It does narrow it down and dilute it as well, in my view. But it's a difficult one because boxing, in many ways, is broken.
Yeah, but do you know why UFC has become so big? Because it is all under one umbrella.
One league,
and it's easy to follow, and the simplicity works for the casual fan. You got your hardcore boxing purists who may say, yeah, more opportunity, different governing bodies. They appreciate that. But simplicity works, and that's why I understand.
Does, but boxing's more nuanced and quite interesting in lots of ways as well. Zelfa, let's get to your fight. You've got Jazza Dickens coming up on the, what is it, the 15th of February? Looking forward to it.
I'm excited, to some, not my fault. I don't know why. I've not boxed nearly in 10 months. Got a good win against Jordan Gill, top the
brilliant
arena.
Fight, brilliant stoppage.
And then, I've been on the bench for some reason. I don't know why. I'm not a bench warmer.
Listen,
I'm match fit. I'm tearing me. I don't know why I'm not so sure I could come on and still score.
Listen, politics of boxing, mate. That's what happens. Like you say, that 10th round KO against Jordan Gill, mate, put you right back in the picture, put you right back up there. Huge opportunity in boxing right now, Zelfa, with what's going on out in Riyadh and out in Saudi Arabia. It is a massive playing field out there now for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, man, this is why I'm excited to get out and perform because, I feel like I've got the style. No matter what fight I'm in, it's a good fight, and, Jazz is a good fighter, but, I just believe he's not on my level, man. Like, where I need to be and the form I'm in, not on my level. He's a good fighter, good guy, but not on my level.
So talk to us about when you have that, for people listening, you go through a 9-month gap. You probably would have wanted to fought in the interim, probably 5 months ago, 4 months ago. You come off a great victory. What are you going through? What are you chasing week in, week out, month in, month out, when you are having that long hiatus in your career?
You know what? So I was meant to fight Kakachi for the IBF world title.
Anthony Kakachi, yeah.
Yeah, and then, they didn't want the fight. They wanted Josh Warrington instead.
That was going to be on the Wembley Stadium card in September then. So how did that manifest itself? You thought you were in and then you were out.
Yeah, my manager told me, listen, got your world title fight. Obviously catch a cycle home early from holiday. Thought yes, get myself into camp. This is the right time. And then my manager manages Josh Warrington too. So I feel like they wanted to fight Josh stylistically wise works for them, and I believe, I'm all wrong for them. If they wanted to fight me for the first defense, they don't want to lose the belt. First time they're defending it, did it? So, but then what it is, it's just goals and aspirations. becoming a world champion. So that just keeps me going.
Yeah, but that's keeping that motivation, mate, is very, very difficult for a fighter who's been a professional for 11 years. You had your debut back in October 2014 against Christian Light, a guy who was having his 202nd fight, by the way.
Yeah.
You go way back then, and you just look and you go, like, so you get to this stage now, you had your world title opportunity, you fell short, and you go, when fights fall, it's easy to fall out of love with the sport, isn't it? So staying focused and keeping that motivation is very difficult for a guy at your stage of your career.
Yeah, but I believe, I showed my capabilities against Rakimov. I took the fight in, 3.5 week notice, 4 week notice, and I believe that I've underachieved if I've not become a world champion. So I've just, knuckle down. Listen, everything always starts off with a dream. And so I'm still in that bubble of, when I'm a world champion, then it is what it is from there. But I'm still hungry. I'm still, that's what it's about, this sport. It doesn't matter how much you've got, or you can come from a good background or a poor background. It's just how hungry you are. If you're very hungry, listen, you can go a long way.
A couple of questions, Zelfa, before we have to break. If and when you come through against Jazza Dickens on the 15th of February, would you be trying to get on that 5v5 card that's being announced for April, May time? Can you get on that?
Listen, I believe, a hand on my heart, I'm one of the best fighters in the world, especially at 130. Like, I'm up with the top dogs. So that's the reason why I've not had a world title fight. They're not going to pick to fight me. So, of course, I believe I'll beat anyone at 130. So if they want to put me up there to represent Matchroom or whatever, listen, all day.
I think against Rakimov, you proved that you're world class, mate. Like you say, you never had a lot of time preparation. You took the opportunity. You done what old school fighters do, by the way. You get gifted that opportunity and you go, you know what? 3-4 weeks notice. I'm not in the best condition that I could be, but this game is all about opportunity. And you took that, mate, and you come out. And if anything, you come out with more credibility than when you went in because of the performance under the circumstances that you put up. You proved you're world class.
You did indeed. Yeah. Can I also ask? So would you be chasing a fight with Kakachi on that 5v5?
Listen, I don't know. I would fight anyone. If it's Kakachi, then it's Kakachi. If it's Lamont Roach, he's fighting obviously Javante Davis. If it's if Nunes has got the belt, if it's Navarrete, Steven Fox, any of them, any of them guys, man. Like, I believe it's my time, and I'm mentally ready to be a world champion, not just physically.
Go well, have a great camp, and we look forward to seeing you fight on February the 15th. Big thank you to Zelfa Barrett there. Up next, we're joined by talkSPORT MMA reporter Vanessa D'Ambrosio as we discuss all things MMA. This is Fight Night on talkSPORT.
Pedro Neto's got to do his job. You know, whether it be Felix on that other side, Sancho on that side. In a 90-minute game, we always give up a chance.
Got 13 recoveries, 100% tackle success rate.
That lapse of concentration and to allow him when we're in behind is why Chelsea fans say, calma, relax.
Really, isn't it?
It is. It's my weekend.
Right. I'm going to go sideways a little bit. I've got 4 big MMA stories of the week that I wanted to discuss. The Trump inauguration, Dana White's with all the ex-presidents. Conor McGregor's there with the Jake Paul brothers saying he'd knock the heads off both of them at the same time. Bellator goes into a grave this week. And also, Khabib is asked to leave a plane. Khabib Nurmagomedov, that is. Tell us why these stories are so big in MMA this week.
Well, I mean, look, Trump's relationship with Dana White goes back into the early 2000s when basically no one was going to sanction MMA fights. It's only recently that New York allowed it.
Human cockfighting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
John McCain called
look,
it.
Now we've got bare knuckle. We've got bare knuckle MMA. So everything's just evolving. But basically, Trump was one of the first people that allowed MMA fights to happen in Atlantic City in the Taj. So basically, that relationship was bonded over 20 years ago, and it's just stuck with him. And then Dana also endorsed Trump as well. So this relationship goes through and through, because if it wasn't for Trump and Trump's influence, MMA would not be where it is today right now. Well, the UFC wouldn't.
Yeah, well, they certainly helped each other, and they're very, very loyal to each other. Khabib being moved off a plane. Come on, what is going on there?
Oh my God, it's ridiculous. Who else would you want to save you on a plane? I think this woman's delusional. He's acting perfectly polite. The clip shows him completely composed. We always know these Dagestanis have a cool head. They barely react even when they're in a fight. They're not emotional people in that capacity. And you can see that she's just butting heads with him. It's like computer says no. Anyway, he ends up getting moved off the plane and gets onto a different one, and effectively now this has gone viral. But it was completely ridiculous.
He was very mellow, wasn't he?
He was also saying, I have no problem to sit here and I speak English. I understand what you're saying. I think they had a problem with him, personally.
Could we see Conor McGregor fight the Paul brothers in a wrestling/MMA match, both on the same night? Is that what we're headed towards?
No, that's not, because the WWE is not going to agree to it, neither is the UFC. Conor McGregor needs to get out of his UFC contract before he can do anything. That is airtight. And even if it was, it should be in the WWE, because no one's taking it seriously. He's banging on about wanting to slap KSI, slap the Paul brothers, and then he's on a bus throwing down with them. It's completely contradictory.
So you say no WWE, no UFC.
No.
So what about the boxing ring? I mean, that's where these fights sort of take place now, isn't it?
If it's going to be anywhere, it'll be a Misfits thing. But they need to get both of their bigger bosses to agree to that. And even if it is 250 million, how much of a piece of a pie are both other two organisations are going to get before they allow that to happen?
I think if they can get... I mean, Conor McGregor is such a small guy compared to the Paul brothers, that in terms of size. But for me, marketing-wise, I remember being around and being involved with Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor fighting. Honestly, Jake Paul is so big now.
Them and match them in size.
Well, he needs to get bigger. He needs to build his body.
Jake Paul's 6 foot something.
6'2", 220.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
He'd have to boil down to 200. Connor's probably 190, 195. Yeah, listen, it's a mismatch in terms of size, but it's not in terms of marketing genius.
And to be fair, Conor does have a really good boxing background. It's not just an MMA background. He actually started off in boxing.
Conor McGregor's very, very good in boxing.
Cromlin Boxing Club.
Absolutely. Absolutely, he's very, very good. So if you put them in the boxing ring, don't worry about the size. The size doesn't really matter, because I think that Jake Paul, Conor McGregor, I can see that fight happening in the boxing ring.
I would love to see Conor McGregor bash him.
Vanessa, who starts favourite in the boxing ring? McGregor or Paul?
No, I'll go McGregor.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I
I'm
would.
on it.
And I reckon, well, look, it depends who gasses out, really, but I reckon Conor McGregor.
Couple of things about a couple of Liverpudlians now. I want to get through a load of things, so I know you want to look at 313 as well, UFC 313. Darren Till, impressive as a boxer for you?
Well, Darren Till also comes from a boxing background. Like, yes, it's tight.
Though, big mismatch. It was a mismatch between Anthony Taylor and we expected Darren Till to win that. Do you think he's going to get a fight with KSI or not?
Yeah, I do, because KSI poo-pooed his recent fight with the footballer, saying
with Wayne Bridge, as we discussed
he said
earlier.
all of those outrageous and very inappropriate things. So I think you should take it with Darren Till.
Okay, Paddy Pimblett. Now, he's been in the news. Talk to us about that. That's an odd one. People are asking if his career's even over.
I think he's on a bit of a downward slide at the moment. He's fallen out of favour with the fans. And then he's gone viral. There's a guy called Dennis Frimpong that fights in Octagon.
Yeah.
And they had this back and forth because of
it's another MMA
It's another
organisation.
MMA organisation. And it was a bit silly. They had this whole thing back and forth when they were on social media. So they said, okay, let's just square it out in an actual fight, but they had to wear gloves, they had to wear shin pads because it's not sanctioned, because they're both employed by other people. And it was whoever finishes who. They were allowed to knock each other out, and they're allowed to basically not tap. Someone had to pull them off each other. Now it's completely squashed. They have no more beef to each other. But I'd like to know with you, Spence, have you ever sort of squashed something in the gym?
That's where it's all squashed. Like if you go back to, let's use the army as an example. You know, when these guys go out to war, they've got to be there and they've got to support each other, so they've got to have each other's backs, so they have to have that respect. If you get shot and you get taken down, you got to, hope that this guy's going to come and get you and pull you away. So when they have beef in the army, they have this argument, they put them in the boxing ring. Why do they do that?
Yeah.
Because it's their ultimate gladiatorial sport, and you gain that ultimate respect. You go, once you've had that boxing fight and you've embraced, and you go, you've both been through that situation, you know that you're going to go and save that guy out there. So that's how powerful boxing is, and that's where all the beef is squashed.
Paddy Pimblett, Michael Chandler rumours, are there anything in there?
Well, they're talking about Michael Chandler and Paddy Pimblett fighting. I thought he was going to fight Renato Moicano, who just fought on the weekend against Islam Makhachev as a short notice replacement. But
How good was Makhachev, by the way? Again, just destroyed him, didn't he? Remember talking about it?
We did. I did think, I was hoping it would go to the later rounds, but it was a total dominant performance, and it was his classic Darce choke as well that he got on him. So it was disappointing for Moicano, but he got paid handsomely for it. He's got a lot more popularity for it, and I think that Paddy needs Moicano now, because Paddy started to fall out with fans recently. I wonder if it's going to be a Chandler fight, and if it is, Chandler's always in exciting fights, but I don't know where Paddy's going right now. He needs to do more to recruit more fan base.
Up and coming, an event we do know has got some announced fights. UFC 313 in March, main and co-main announcements. Alex Pereira, Magomed Ankalaev, and Dan Hooker, Justin Gaethje. Two terrific fights there.
Yeah, this is going to be amazing. Justin Gaethje is just coming in of that devastating and viral knockout that he had against Max Holloway. And Max Holloway, stood him in front in the ring with the last 10 seconds and just, flatlined him. So that's going to be his first fight back. That's going to be exciting. That's going to be a number one contender fight. And then you've got Alex Pereira fighting Ankalaev as well. And then whoever's
biggest star in the sport right now, Pereira.
Absolutely. And then if you go
Sharma.
Well, not
Sharma.
Yeah. Charmer's become a thing. It's absolutely.
He's big, isn't he?
It
he doesn't even speak English, and he's so big. I find it incredible.
Do you know what? He actually understands a lot more English than he speaks. He's just shy to speak it. That's what he says.
Doesn't want to make a fool of himself.
No.
Canelo used to be like that.
As if he could make a fool of himself. But with Yuri Prochazka humbled Jamal Hill, which I said would happen. Yep. It was going to be a finish. And
amazing fight.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that Yuri Prochazka wants to fight Alex, regardless of the winner of the Ankalaev-Pereira fight. Yep. But again, we're going to see Yuri fight the winner of that next. So there's a lot of moving parts to this, which is super duper exciting.
Anything else that took your fancy on the UFC 311 card?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got Merab dominating Uma. That was really exciting. Uma's broke his hand in the first round. We did say it was going to come down to the striking. He broke his hand in the first round, so obviously Merab's taken over from that. And then, but it was really, really exciting, and I'm glad to see it see how the fight played out. I'm glad to see it happen again. I think they're going to rematch again. It was a very emotional fight.
Thank you for your energy, your intelligence, your knowledge, the glamour. Thanks for bringing a bit of glamour, because I needed it, because Spencer's flagging on me a little bit, looking like a little bulldog in here tonight. Thank you so much, Vanessa D'Ambrosio. Thank you so much. Next up, we're looking ahead to next week's Adam Azim versus Sergey Lipinets main event, live and exclusive right here on talkSPORT.
It's the show that jabs you between the ears.
Oh, he's got down!
Fight Night.
You're listening to Fight Night on talkSPORT. What a show it's been tonight. If you're listening to us now, you can look back on the show on our YouTube channel. Loads of content on there all week from talkSPORT. I'm Gareth Davies, and you're listening to Fight Night. Alongside me is the Omen, as he's known as. Well, he was known as the Omen. He's still the Omen. You're still the Omen. You've got that energy. Spencer Oliver. Next weekend, we've already talked about Dalton Smith winning tonight in one round up in Nottingham. Brilliant 140-pound fighter, 10-stone fighter, same weight division that Ricky Hatton was brilliant in 20 years ago. The same division that Adam Azim is rising right now. Both were prospects together. Dalton Smith slightly further ahead. We had Tony Bellew on the phone just now, driving home, saying how brilliant Dalton Smith looks. And it's an amazing division with the likes of Gervonta Davis. And I mean, arguably, Gervonta Davis is top 10 pound for pound, maybe top 7. Dalton is probably ready for world level now. That's the next step.
Yep,
Adam
agree.
Azim is going to get a test against Sergei Lipinets next weekend. We're going to be there live and direct for talkSPORT. What's your feeling about this matchup?
This is a good fight. This is a good fight for Adam Azim at this stage. Lipinets has been around a long time. 118, lost 3, drawn 1, 13 KOs. Been in with some big names. Jerome Ennis beat him. He beat him in 6 rounds. Mikey Garcia he lost to on point. So that gives you a sort of a benchmark on where this kid is and where the calibre that he's mixed in. He's mixed in world class. He's still got a lot in the tank. He looked good last time out. He beat Robbie Davies Jr. actually on a unanimous decision. It was a back and forth, a real war. And he's a tough kid, mate.
Tough and can be tricky.
Absolutely.
That's what I describe him as, tough and tricky. Proud as well.
Listen,
proud fighter.
What he does is he's got that experience and, you know, he's got that little hustle. He's very tough, comes forward his hands high, wings those shots in from unpredictable angles. He's short, he's squat, and he could prove a problem for Adam Azim the longer the fight goes on because his tank, Gareth, is insane. He just keeps going.
Absolutely right. What I was so impressed with Adam Azim last time out against O'Hara Davies, friend of the show, they boxed each other as, well, when Adam was a very young man, he looked up to O'Hara Davies in the gym, down at the Peacock Gym in Canning Town. Adam was very impressive against O'Hara Davies, a wizened pro. In his last fight, he's retired since, of course, he came into the studio. He was so precise. We know he's got coruscating speed with his hands. Sure. Dangerous speed, but he was so precise and picked his punches very well last time.
He really did.
And movement.
O'Hara Davies is a very good fighter, and the way that he beat O'Hara Davies systematically broke him down. The speed of shot, accuracy, punch, output was incredible. Repertoire was brilliant. Everything there, he controlled it, the angles, all of it. He looked good, and he's improving, he's maturing all the time. He's only 12-0 now with 9 KOs. Still time for him, like you say. Him, Dalton Smith is just that little step ahead so far, but I think there's massive improvements all the time, and this really is a coming of age fight for him here against a seasoned campaigner. Great matchmaking this.
It is. It's for the vacant IBO super lightweight title. I think, Dalton, when one of them gets a world title or a world title opportunity or an interim belt, I think we'll see them fight each other, and it reminds me they're getting close to that moment where George Groves and James DeGale fought each other for a European, I think European, Commonwealth, British, I think maybe all three were on the line at the O2 Arena.
That's right,
amazing fight. And they'd grown up together through the ranks. Dale Youth, they didn't like each other.
They boxed each other as amateurs, actually.
They were at the same amateur club as well.
And George Groves won that one.
10 and 11.
That's right.
You know, so we do want to see these fights because it's not always. Both went on to be world champions, of course, as well. So it doesn't always work against them to have a loss at that point in their career after 15, 16 fights. Look, there's a couple of other fights. We're there live and direct, of course, next weekend. The team are there. It's going to be a great night. Callum Simpson against Elvis O'Holgan. Good fight as well. I like Simpson.
Listen, Simpson only boxed Steve Woodall 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, he won in a couple of rounds. He looked sensational. Love Callum Simpson. You know, he's 16-0, 11 KOs. This kid, I think, will go on and become a world champion. I really do believe that. Do you know what he reminds me of? He reminded me of a very young Joe Calzaghe, but obviously in the orthodox style. Calzaghe, but like he throws those punches, speed and clusters. Like he sort of controls the space very well.
He's got his detractors as well, though. I don't understand it. He's got his detractors.
Yeah, but you know what? That's not a bad thing. You know, that's always, you know, if someone's talking about you, you're doing something right for sure. And I think that Callum Simpson's that kid, and I think that, you know, bless him, he's been through a lot in the last couple of months, you know, with losing his sister. He went into that fight with that on his shoulders. A lot of pressure with him. He delivered against Steve Woodall, and I think with him being active and boxing, keeping him focused, you know, keeping his mind there. I love Callum Simpson, and I think the kid will go on and he'll do big things. It's a great show, actually. Lucas Roreg is on the show as well, and that's George Groves' kid. He's 1-0 now. Just saw him box a couple of weeks ago as well.
Trained by George now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have a look out for this kid. He is sensational and another star of the future.
Absolutely right. Now, there's a couple of big fights around the world. Let's finally discuss those in the last couple of minutes of the show tonight. Claressa Shields is defending her heavyweight titles against Danielle Perkins. There's no one to match her at the top of I know that there's not enough strength in depth in women's boxing, which is why they can go all the way up having said that, Roy Jones Jr. went all the way up in men's boxing to be a heavyweight champion from middleweight, where he began. Claressa Shields has been an incredible standout now for several years, double Olympic champion, and now... How many weight divisions has she gone?
I think like 7 or something.
Welterweight to heavyweight, basically.
Like 7, maybe 8.
She's quite extraordinary. She's fighting next weekend.
She's sensational. The pioneer of women's boxing. You know, we've got Katie Taylor over here, you know, who really lit up women's boxing over here and brought that to the forefront. And Claressa Shields has done it stateside. You know, she's very charismatic, but she is very, very good. You remember that iconic show at the O2 Arena just before...
The all-women's card.
Yeah, the all-women's card. What a show that was. And Sav Marshall, what a performance she put in there, and an incredible night in front of 20,000 pack fans. Women's boxing has evolved so much.
It really
and
has.
Claressa Shields has played a big part of that. Looking forward to her making her heavyweight debut.
Very quickly, give me the top 3 pound-for-pound women in the world right now. I'll delve in. We haven't got long.
I'm ready. I'm going to go Katie Taylor, Claressa Shields, Chantel Cameron. Or Miranda Serrano. Give me a 4.
I'm going to go Claressa Shields, Katie Taylor. No, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, and Natasha Jonas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
And obviously Natasha Jonas and our friend Miss Price, Lauren Price fight each other very soon.
So you pick Natasha over Lauren to win that fight, do you?
No, I'm going to pick Lauren, much as Tasha won't like that. I'm going to pick Lauren Price to win that fight. And there's another big fight.
That's March the 7th, by the way.
That is March the 7th. Albert Hall, all-women's card, will be absolutely amazing. Hopefully we're there as well. Finally tonight, a big fight in America. Next weekend as well. David Morrell against David Benavidez. That's the first of the second, by the way. The Claressa Shields fight is the second of the second. Morrell.
It's a sensational fight. Benavidez for me.
Heavyweight, isn't it?
Benavidez for me wins it. He's very big, very tall, very accurate, very strong. But Morrell is a great fighter as well. That's a great fight, that one.
It's the guy that Benavidez, by the way, if you're listening, and if you're not a boxing aficionado,
he's a monster.
He is, but he's also the guy that many people want Canelo to fight because they believe that he's the biggest test around his weight division, beyond the 1/7, beyond the super middleweight division, the Bivols of this world.
Let me rephrase that. He's the guy that Canelo's avoiding.
You don't know that.
I just told you.
Avoiding is a thing in boxing. Avoiding is a thing that can't happen in UFC. Avoiding, going sideways, is one of the things that I don't like about boxing, because that is...
Canelo Alvarez is doing it with Benavidez.
It's an amazing fight.
A fact.
It's an amazing fight if that ever happens. I hope Turki Al-Sheikh steps in the next few months and makes that happen. Spencer Oliver, thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you all for listening. You know that where all our content is on the YouTube channel. You've been listening to Fight Night on talkSPORT. We'll see you next week.